Chapter 841. In the room, only Ningxu and Mei Ziqing were calm. The other girls hugged each other, scared out of their wits. Ningxu took out a notebook and a pen from his bedside bag, and recorded the victim's condition. He wrote down the name and symptoms to see if there were any clues. Ningxu observed carefully, and found a name engraved on the brush. Panchen. It was a boy from the Chinese Arts Club. The boy entered the girls' room. How did he get in? The door was locked and couldn't be opened from the outside. Or was there an accomplice in the room? The brush was inserted into the victim's eyeball. Why didn't she struggle? The bedsheets weren't messy either. Someone must have tidied it up afterward. There was no movement. The 6 girls in the room didn't hear anything. Was she sleeping so soundly? Ningxu sniffed. Could it be that there was some incense in the room? Or perhaps he had been drugged. Mei Ziqing and Ningxu shook their heads. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of someone knocking on the door rose and fell. What happened? Open the door. There was a commotion outside the door. Mei Ziqing was about to open the door when Ningxu said, "Wait, I haven't put on my pants." Ningxu put on his pants. Mei Ziqing opened the door and a swarm of young students rushed in. When they saw the person killed by the brush, their faces turned pale and the girls screamed. The one walking in front was a handsome young man. Although he was afraid when he saw this situation, he was much calmer than the others. He was the president, Fan Junyang, who suggested coming here to collect literature. Dead. It's so scary. More than 30 people crowded the room. There was a large empty space near the bed. No one dared to go near the dead body. Teacher is here. An uncle in a black trench coat walked in. He walked to the corpse, put on medical gloves, and pulled out the brush from the eyeball. When he pulled it out, there was some blood on Ningxu, who was standing beside the corpse. Ningxu was speechless. The uncle checked the wound. When he saw Panchen's name, he asked calmly, "Who is Panchen?" A fair-skinned, frail-looking boy stammered. "I didn't kill anyone." The school doctor twirled the tip of the brush, and finally pulled out a needle from the brush. The uncle squinted his eyes slightly to size up the needle. Ningxu recorded this situation. This needle was an ordinary embroidery needle, and it was stuck in the brush. This way, it would be faster to kill someone. The uncle glanced at Ningxu's book and didn't say anything. "I really didn't kill anyone, it wasn't me." Panchen hurriedly shook his head. "Everyone's painting tools are placed together. Anyone could have taken them, but only mine." Panchen's face was red as he tried to defend himself. He did not even dare to look at the corpse on the Kong bed. The uncle said indifferently, "Carry the body down there." When they heard that they had to move the body, everyone was so scared that they scrambled out of the room. "Move away," the uncle said to Ningxu, who was about to run away. "I'm a girl, I can't move it," Ningxu said. The uncle took off his blood-stained gloves and threw them out of the window. Then he turned around and left the room. Ningxu was speechless. Why was she always the one who got hurt? Ningxu carried the body down the stairs with difficulty. It was really scary to carry a dead person like this. Ningxu had overestimated himself. This body did not practice any peerless martial arts, so it was not strong. When he carried it to the courtyard, he was so tired that he could not breathe. The snow on the ground was already up to his calves, and snow was falling from the sky. They could not walk at all, nor could they drive the car. Why did they have to court death? If they didn't court death, they wouldn't have died. He placed the body at the foot of the courtyard wall with difficulty. The girl was wearing thick silk pajamas. Her eye socket was black, and the other eye was wide open. It was very scary. Ningxu thought about it, and undid her clothes to check if there were any other wounds on her body. "Are you a pig?" The uncle's voice came from behind. "I only asked you to carry it down. I didn't ask you to carry it to the courtyard. The snow will cover the body. At least wait for me to dissect it before throwing it out." Ningxu was speechless. Ningxu was speechless. He was the one who did not make it clear. If he did not take the body out, did he have to keep it at home and sleep with it? Ningxu carried the body on his shoulders and carried it into the living room. The living room was very simple. There was only one table, and the table was made up of a few pieces of wood. There were 4 benches, and many people could not sit. They could only stand. When they saw Ning Shu carrying the body back, they said, "Don't put it here, we are scared." Many girls were so scared that they cried. Ning Shu could not even straighten his back. He carried more than 50 kilograms of body down the stairs, to the courtyard, and then back to the living room. It was very tiring. "Teacher, what should we do? Should we call the police?" Fan Junyang, the president of the Chinese Arts Society, said to the uncle. His face was pale, and his pupils were trembling. It was obvious that he was holding on. "The snow has sealed the mountain. Even if we call the police, they might not be able to get in. The signal here is not good. We can't even get through to the phone," a pretty girl said. She looked at the uncle and said, "Teacher, what do you think we should do?" The uncle pushed up his glasses and said, "Do you want me to feed you?" The girl's face turned red. She could not help but say, "Teacher, it's me." The uncle was expressionless. Ning Shu looked at the pretty girl. He guessed that she was the super mission enforcer. After entering this body, the body's aura and charm had increased by a lot. Many boys were looking at her, but she was looking at the school doctor. "Put the body on the table," the uncle said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu thought, "Why is it me again?" He treated a girl like a coolie. There were so many people in the room. How could he order her around? "Let me do it." A boy stood up and moved the body to the wooden table. "Thank you." Ning Shu thanked him. "You're welcome. We know each other." The boy smiled. Damn, it was definitely Zhang Jiasen. The uncle used a pair of medical scissors to cut off the clothes on the body, revealing the pale skin. The body was naked, revealing 2 lumps of flesh. Some of the boys could not help but blush. They slanted their eyes to take a peek. But it was another body. It was so embarrassing. The uncle held a silver scalpel and started to cut the skin from the chin. A straight line was drawn all the way to the crotch of the body. The uncle was wearing gloves. He used one hand to pull off the flesh on one side. With a tearing sound, the skin was peeled off. Red ribs with blood. The internal organs were clearly displayed in front of everyone. Everyone was speechless. Ugh! Some of them were so scared that they ran upstairs and vomited. Ning Shu's eyelids were twitching. This guy was still so fierce. The others had entered other people's bodies. This guy actually appeared just like that. He even became a Chinese arts teacher. These club members were still convinced that this guy was a teacher. Which teacher would be so aggressive and not care about the students at all? Chapter 842. Ning Shu watched silently as the uncle put on a pair of gloves and reached into his stomach. He cut open his stomach and examined it carefully. Ning Shu swallowed her saliva. She was not used to this. "Who do you think the murderer is?" Zhang Jiasen asked Ning Shu. "Everyone is a suspect." Ning Shu said calmly. Everyone who was in the same room as the deceased, including her and Mei Ziqing, were suspects. Perhaps the original owner had already killed the deceased before she entered this body. It was also possible that the people in the room worked together to kill the deceased. It could also be the owner of the paintbrush, Pan Chun. There were countless possibilities, so there was no way to be sure. Why did the club leader, Fan Junyang, choose such a place? Ning Shu looked out of the window. There were a few families around, and it was very quiet. Occasionally a dog barked. There was no one in sight. Ning Shu could not figure out why the first person to die was someone close to her. The deaths were different every time. And the order was different. There was no pattern at all. Everyone in the Chinese Arts Club was a suspect, but everyone was in danger. Zhang Jiasen squinted his eyes. Could it be the power of ghosts? It shouldn't be the power of ghosts. Mei Ziqing shook her head. I have the psychic body, and there is no strange magnetic field around me. Ning Shu looked at Mei Ziqing in surprise. She did not expect Mei Ziqing to be so capable. Ning Shu thought for a while. She picked up Zhang Jiasen's hand and pinched it. Her fingers were stained with blood. She chanted a spell and smeared the blood on her eyelids. TSK, your body isn't a virgin anymore. Ning Shu's expression was full of disdain, but she couldn't see anything. Ning Shu wiped the blood off her eyelids. The surroundings are very normal. These deaths were caused by someone. The uncle said calmly. Throw the bodies out. The uncle took off his gloves and threw them on the bodies. Then he took out the antiseptic spray and sprayed it on his hands. What's going on? An old woman came out from the room next to the central room. This old woman had a stooped figure, many age spots on her face, and snow-white hair. Beside him was a 17 or 18-year-old girl. The girl was tugging on the corner of the old woman's clothes. The girl was wearing a thick cotton coat. Her eyes were very strange. Her pupils were small black dots, and the rest of her eyes were gray. Her eyes seemed to be covered with a thin layer of shadow. This? When the old woman saw the corpse with its internal organs exposed on the table, she was so scared that she staggered. What are you doing? Leave, you're not welcome here. The old woman looked flustered. Grandma, what's wrong? The girl tugged at the old woman's clothes tightly. How can you kill people in my house? Leave, you will suffer retribution for this. The old woman raised her walking stick. Granny, we didn't kill this person, said the super task enforcer Lu Shanshan gently. I don't care, you can't stay in my house anymore. The old woman waved her hands, her expression firm. Lu Shanshan frowned and said to the blind girl, Sister, it's snowing so hard that we can't leave. Please let us stay here. We really didn't kill this person. The girl tugged at the old woman's clothes. Grandma, let them stay here. There have never been so many people in the house. Girl, you didn't see what they did. The old woman looked anxious. We'll pay 5 times the accommodation fee, Lu Shanshan said. Grandma, with this money, I can go to the hospital to get my eyes treated, the girl said excitedly. The old woman sighed and didn't say anything. Lu Shanshan made a V sign to the school doctor uncle. The uncle's expression was very indifferent. He stared at his hands. Not even a speck of dirt could be found under his fingernails. Ningxu carefully observed the pair of grandmother and granddaughter. They were the owners of this house. It was said that the blind girl had an eye disease since she was young. She was born blind. Her parents had gone out to work and had not returned for many years. There was no news of them. No one knew if they were dead or not. The old woman's husband had died a long time ago. The grandmother and granddaughter depended on each other. The president, Fan Junyang, chose this house because it was the only 2-story house in the neighborhood. There were 32 people in the club. Although it was a 2-story house, it was very old. Throw the body out, the uncle said indifferently. Ningxu couldn't bear to look at the body with its internal organs exposed. He reached out to drag the body. Mei Ziqing held his hand. Let me help you. The two of them stepped into the snow and carried the body to the foot of the courtyard wall. Ningxu stuffed snow into the abdomen of the corpse, and then covered the body with snow to slow down the rate of decomposition. Mei Ziqing piled snow on the body. Ningxu said, Who do you think will be the next person? I don't know. They didn't know how the murderer killed them or why they killed them. They didn't know the motive or the method. Everyone was a suspect. Ningxu used the snow to wipe the blood off his hands. He suddenly asked Mei Ziqing, You said you were psychic. Can you see the souls of the dead? Mei Ziqing shook her head. No, I can't feel anything. Everyone had a soul. How could the souls of the dead dissipate so quickly? Ningxu's brain was a mess. Was his IQ really that low? The snow was getting heavier. After a while, Ningxu and Mei Ziqing's bodies were covered in snow. Mei Ziqing pulled Ningxu into the room. There were a few people sitting around a table in the living room. They were all mission enforcers and were discussing something. Everyone had their own thoughts and slowly sorted out the situation. Ouch, I'm getting a mouth ulcer. A guy covered his mouth with a helpless expression. The guy looked at Ningxu and said, I heard that the girl's saliva can treat mouth ulcers. Ningxu shook his head and said, There's no scientific basis for this. Why were they talking about this in such a serious situation? Lu Shanshan was obviously prettier. Why didn't they ask for Lu Shanshan's saliva but ask for hers? Was this body also pretty? Looking at his sloppy appearance, it was obvious that he was 795, who had insulted the super mission enforcers and called them super prostitutes. Give me some of your saliva, will you? It hurts so much. Just a touch of my tongue hurts, 795 said Ningxu. Ningxu was really annoyed. With a click, she spat out a mouthful of phlegm on the table. Go ahead and lick it, 795. Everyone else. The uncle looked at Ningxu with a murderous look. Wipe it clean. Ningxu. Ningxu wiped the sputum off her mouth with a piece of tissue paper. 795 didn't ask Ningxu for her saliva anymore. Zhang Jiasen looked at Ningxu silently. His eyes were deep. No one knew what he was thinking. Ah, someone died. Chapter 843. A terrified scream came from outside the house. The few people in the house hurried out. This time, the corpse was in a simple toilet in the backyard. In rural areas, toilets were built in the backyard. A girl's face was pale and terrified. She vomited loudly. Ningxu walked over and looked into the cesspool. She saw a corpse floating in the cesspool with its face facing upwards. Its face and head were covered in filth. Her face was twisted and her mouth was slightly open. There was dirty water in her mouth. Ningxu felt his stomach churning. He wanted to vomit. She died in the cesspit. Ningxu said, "Tell me the situation later." He turned and left. Lu Shanshan also left with her mouth covered. The other club members who rushed over vomited together. One person led a group of people to vomit. He had already died when he woke up in the morning. He hadn't even had a bite of breakfast. Now he was dead again. It was the same way. He had vomited until there was nothing left in his stomach. How did this happen? Fan Junyang scratched his head. His eyes were red. Fan Junyang was under a lot of pressure. These people were brought here by him. Now 2 of them had died. Was this the beginning or the end? 2 deaths in a row made everyone uneasy and afraid. A restless and tense feeling surged in everyone's heart. If there was any more commotion, they would lose control. Ningxu used a piece of paper to block his nostrils. He poked the corpse with a tree branch and measured the depth of the cesspit. It wasn't very high. If she had fallen, she would have been able to stand up. She wouldn't have suffocated. Did someone hold her down and drown her in the cesspit? Or did they kill her first and throw her into the cesspit? There was no way to do an autopsy like this. Even a normal person wouldn't be able to stand it, let alone a misophobic uncle. Mei Ziqing frowned. No soul. If there was no soul, it meant that the person wasn't dead. If she was dead, then her soul must have dissipated. How did it dissipate so quickly? Zhang Jiasen squatted beside Ningxu. He stared at the corpse in the cesspit and said, "I still feel that this isn't a purely human action. An unnatural force." Ningxu poked at the corpse. There were some clues on this person. "Let's drag him up," Ningxu said. Mei Ziqing's face was full of disdain. "Don't." Ningxu pushed the corpse in front of him and gripped the corpse's clothes. Suddenly, he felt a sticky sensation on his hands. Ningxu felt extremely disgusted. He pulled the corpse up with all his might. Immediately, a foul smell of feces seeped into the snow. Zhang Jiasen and Mei Ziqing immediately distanced themselves from Ningxu. Ningxu rubbed his hands in the snow and picked up a branch to pull at the corpse's clothes. The chest and arms of the deceased had been bitten by something. There were deep scratches on them, and they were beyond recognition. There was a big hole in his chest, and his heart was gone. "Ningxu." Mei Ziqing hurried over. "Your heart is gone. What kind of animal did this bite and scratch?" Ningxu looked at the bite and scratch marks. "A dog, a large dog," Zhang Jiasen guessed. Ningxu frowned. Being bitten like this, digging a big hole in the chest, and then digging out the heart, this was most painful. However, they did not hear anything at all. Moreover, this pair of grandfather and grandson did not have a dog. Where did the murderer find the time to commit the crime? Ningxu couldn't help but feel dizzy. She was too dizzy. Ningxu used the snow to bury the corpse. It was too disgusting, and he did not want to look at it again. The central room was full of people. The moment Ningxu walked in, he smelled feces. The uncle pointed at Ningxu. "Stand at the door." Ningxu. "I have something to say," Ningxu said. To be honest, his misophobia was really annoying. There are scratches and bites on her body. She might have been bitten to death by an animal, Ningxu said. "Where is the fatal wound?" "The heart is gone. Carnivorous ferocious beasts always attack the weak and vital parts." The uncle pointed at his neck with his slender fingers. "This is the most vital part. The heart is also protected by the chest. This place cannot be killed in a single move. Ningshu's eyes darted around. This meant that the victim might not have really been bitten to death by an animal, and the wound might have been man-made. What if there were claws and scratches on the victim's body? Teacher, what should we do? President Fan Junyang asked the uncle. Let's leave this place, the uncle said indifferently. Where do you think we should go? Do you have a plane at home? The snow was getting heavier and heavier, and it did not stop. There was no way to drive. Fan Junyang's face was ashen. The tall and handsome him suddenly became hunched, looking very dispirited. Quite a number of girls started crying, and someone even pointed at Fan Junyang. Why did you bring us to such a godforsaken place? You just want to kill us. The moment these words came out, the girls cried even more sadly. Although the boys did not cry, they were out of their wits. Their expressions were fearful, and their faces were pale. The timid ones were so scared that their bodies started trembling. Fan Junyang's expression turned even uglier. He could not help but say, Pan Chen recommended me to come to this place. Everyone looked at Pan Chen. I saw the news on the internet. It said that the scenery here is not bad, especially the snow in winter. You must be the murderer. Your name is on the brush, and you were the one who found this place. A girl pointed at Pan Chen. Pan Chen was a delicate and weak boy. When he was accused and looked at by so many people, his fair skin flushed red. He hurriedly waved his hand and said in a panicked voice, I didn't kill anyone. I really didn't kill anyone. The central room was filled with a suffocating atmosphere of panic. No one knew if there would be more deaths. Would it be the people around them who died, or would it be them? Grumble. Ningshu's stomach growled. He had not eaten anything since he woke up in the morning, and he had been doing physical labor. Many people's stomachs also growled. Fan Junyang left the central room and went to the kitchen to look for the grandmother and granddaughter to make breakfast. After a while, the old woman made black steamed buns, some pickles and cornmeal porridge. Everyone had porridge and a steamed bun, and there was nothing else. The food in the countryside was not good to begin with. In addition, it was winter, so there were not many vegetables. Moreover, there were not enough bowls and chopsticks. They had to wait for others to finish eating before washing the bowls and serving the porridge. Ningshu had fished the body out of the manure pit, so no matter how he washed it, there was a stench. Ningshu planned to go to the kitchen to get some ash to wash his hands. In this situation, he should have taken a bath. However, it was cold and the bathroom was drafty. It was simply freezing to death. Ningshu walked into the kitchen and saw the blind girl sitting in front of the stove. Her eyes were blank, and her small pupils looked particularly strange. She touched the firewood beside her and stuffed it into the stove. Ningshu pursed his lips and walked over. I'll get some ash to wash my hands. Oh, okay. Lon was stunned for a moment before saying, there's ash in the stove next to it. Chapter 844. Ningshu walked around Lon and used a wooden stick to scoop out the dust from another hole. This is for you. Lon passed the poker to Ningshu. Ningshu looked at the poker and then at Lan's face, which was illuminated by the fire. Ningshu looked at the poker. Lon uneasily retracted her hand. Are you afraid of me? No. Ningshu took the poker. Thank you. Ningshu washed his hands with water mixed with herbs. After washing his hands, he smelled them. There was no smell of feces on his hands, but the smell on his body was still there. Ningshu looked at Lon and asked, have you eaten? Lon smiled, as if she was happy that Ningshu took the initiative to talk to her. She said, not yet. Grandma said we should wait for you to finish eating. Lan's voice had a heavy accent. Ningshu could barely hear her. You're here. Mei Ziqing walked in and gave Ningshu a black steamed bun. Ningshu thanked her with a smile and nibbled on the steamed bun. Mei Ziqing glanced at Lon and said, the teacher asked you to go over. Oh. Ningshu followed Mei Ziqing out of the kitchen. He turned around and saw Lon looking in their direction. Her eyes were empty. Her eyes were not focused at all. Ningshu walked into the living room and asked the uncle, why are you looking for me? You'll be on night watch tonight, the uncle said. 2 people together. Who do you want to be with? Ningshu was speechless. Nothing good came out of being called. Why didn't he ask her to eat? Ningxu really wanted to spit on his face. I'll go with her. Mei Ziqing stood beside Ningxu and said. Ningxu was touched. He held Mei Ziqing's hand tightly. Sister, you're so cute. The uncle glanced at Ningxu. However, Lu Shanshan said. When did you two become so close? It's not safe for two girls to keep watch at night. I'll keep watch tonight, Zhang Jiasun said. Ningxu. No matter what Zhang Jiasun did or said, Ningxu felt that he was up to no good. No need, just the two of us are enough. Ningxu refused. The uncle said aloud. Try not to go out at night. Don't go out alone, and give the murderer a chance. Yes, sir. As soon as the uncle spoke, these people were as obedient as primary school students. No one could skin them and cut their internal organs without batting an eyelid like their instructor. Ningxu went upstairs to get a notebook. He recorded everything down and then slowly straightened it out. Ningxu felt like his head was about to explode from this kind of test of intelligence. Seeing that the mission enforcers were all calm and composed, Ningxu felt very flustered. An indescribable panic. His mind was in a daze. Fuck, it felt like his brain was on fire. Ningxu climbed onto the bed and took out a notebook from the bedside bag. One of them was stabbed through the eye by a writing brush. There was an embroidery needle in the brush. They were all students. It was impossible for them to carry embroidery needles with them. Besides, these students couldn't mend their own clothes. Then the embroidery needle must have belonged to the old woman. If the wound on the other person was really like what the uncle said, and he wasn't bitten to death by an animal, then there must be a tool. Where was the tool hidden? No matter how he looked at it, it was a crime committed by someone familiar with this house. 2333. Something happened again. Mei Ziqing walked in and said to Ningxu with a bad expression. Ningxu hurriedly got down from the bed and asked, Who is it? Panchen. Ningxu hurried to the crime scene. Panchen was dead at the door of the room. The back of his head was knocked against the door frame. The back of his head was bleeding all over the floor. This kind of mud house in the countryside had a threshold. Panchen was lying on the floor, motionless. The uncle wore gloves and checked Panchen's head. Who was last with Panchen? The uncle's face was very stern. Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads. A boy whispered. He said he wanted to go back to his room to get something. I said, don't be alone. Is your brain full of shit? The uncle took off his gloves and pressed his hand on his waist. Everyone was trembling with fear. Ningxu frowned. Panchen was the most suspicious person. He was the one who suggested coming here. The brush was his. Now Panchen was dead. The most suspicious person was dead. Now anyone could be the murderer. The president, Fan Junyang, leaned against the wall. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. He couldn't suppress his panic, but he forced himself to calm down and said, In the future, if anyone wants to go anywhere, let's go together. His voice was trembling. There's a ghost, there's a ghost. I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place. A girl broke down and shouted as she stumbled down the stairs. Lin Xia, don't run around. Fan Junyang shouted at the girl. But Lin Xia covered her head and ignored Fan Junyang. She ran away in an instant. Ningxu and a few mission enforcers quickly chased after her. When they got out of the courtyard, they saw Lin Xia running in the snowstorm. Hurry up, or you'll get lost. 795 frowned and said, We're already at a disadvantage in this mission. 3 people died in a row. Now, we don't even have a clue about the murderer. 795 cursed. Damn, I don't want to die again and again. She's gone. Ningxu said helplessly. Lin Xia's figure was gone. Only the snowflakes were blown around by the cold wind. Even her footprints were covered by the snow. 795 shrugged and turned to walk back. Go back. She's dead. She would either starve to death or freeze to death. Ningxu also turned and looked at the vast expanse of whiteness. Do you remember the direction? Everyone was speechless. 795 walked in front. His fingers moved quickly as if there was an invisible thread wrapped around his hand. Follow me. Ningxu narrowed his eyes. He didn't see anything in 795's hand either. It was probably some kind of treasure. The few of them followed behind 795 unsteadily. Ningxu touched his stomach. The black steamed bun in the morning wasn't enough to fill his stomach. Now he was hungry again. Ningxu took out a few fasting pills and asked, "Do you want some?" "Give me 2. I'm starving." 795 stretched out his hand. "There's no spit on it, right? You're so disgusting. I can't eat anymore." Mei Ziqing took one and threw it into his mouth. Ningxu gave 795 2 pills and gave one each to Zhang Jiasan and another mission enforcer. "Thank you." Zhang Jiasan thanked Ningxu. "No need." Every time he saw Zhang Jiasan acting like a human, Ningxu's hair stood on end. After eating the fasting pills, his body warmed up and he wasn't hungry anymore. Lu Shanshan didn't come? Ningxu looked around. 795's face was full of disdain. She wouldn't do such a hard thing. She only needs to use her body to conquer men and make them do things. Ningxu. It seemed that the grudge between the two of them wasn't small. It made a man hate a woman so much. How can a person who doesn't even know how to build a world be a super mission enforcer? 795's tone was full of contempt. Chapter 845. Building a World? Ningxu memorized this in his heart. What was this? 795, a high-level mission enforcer, actually had such an attitude towards a super mission enforcer. When they returned to the house, there was a thick layer of snow on their bodies. Ningxu helped Mei Ziqing brush off the snow on his collar. "You didn't get her back?" The uncle's expression was indifferent and his tone was light. He didn't care about a life at all. 795 shrugged his shoulders. She couldn't have escaped. "Instructor, let's go and look for her." "Something must have happened to Lin Xia," Fan Junyang said anxiously. "She and Pan Chen are the best members of the Chinese Arts Club. They are going to participate in the national competition this year." Fan Junyang's face was pale. A few people had died. 2 of the top students in Chinese arts were also in trouble. The uncle said indifferently, "Then go and look for her. I won't stop you. I can't guarantee that she will come back. If there's nothing else, stay in the house. Don't walk around." The uncle held a shiny scalpel in his hand. Fan Junyang looked outside the house. The sky was dark and there were thick clouds. Even if he didn't know the weather, he knew that the snow would get heavier. "Instructor, we'll stay with you," Fan Junyang said. Everyone stayed in the central room, making it seem very crowded. Some girls were sobbing softly and huddled together. "Instructor, do you have any clues?" Uncle Ningxu asked. The uncle stared at the old woman who came in with a brazier. Lan was behind the old woman and tugging on her clothes. Did the uncle suspect the old woman and Lan? "Take it out. The house is dirty with so many people. Don't bring the brazier in," the uncle said. Ningxu was speechless. Damn, I thought the uncle suspected the old woman and her granddaughter to be the murderer. The central room is ventilated. The brazier will be warmer. The old woman put down the brazier and the charcoal crackled. Ningxu's nose twitched, and he smelled a refreshing aroma. It was the refreshing aroma of wood. He couldn't help but ask, "What is this? It smells so good." "This is fragrant twig wood. The wood has a fragrance," Lan said to Ningxu, but she didn't look at Ningxu. Her eyes were unfocused. Ningxu sniffed carefully, but there didn't seem to be any strange smell. The old woman sighed. "I wanted to drive you away, but now there's going to be a blizzard." "Thank you, old man," Fan Junyang said immediately. Lunch was still black flour steamed buns, porridge and pickled vegetables. The leaden clouds in the sky became lower and lower, and the sky darkened a lot. Because everyone was gathered in the central room, the afternoon was very peaceful, and nothing happened. The cold wind was blowing, and after dinner everyone in the main room was shivering with cold. Fan Junyang said to the uncle, "Tutor, it's too cold. We want to go to the Kong. We won't be alone." The middle-aged man nodded. A few mission enforcers stayed behind and sat around the table. 795 said, "Let me talk about my point of view first. There is more than one murderer." Lu Shanshan sneered. "Where's the evidence?" "Almost everyone has an alibi. They must have colluded with each other." Lu Shanshan whispered. I think there's something wrong with this pair of grandmother and grandson. Someone in the club must have something to do with them. Every time the old woman scooped porridge for Fan Junyang, it was drier than the others, Lu Shanshan said. Fan Junyang was always the first to be scooped. They're not related to Fan Junyang. Why is she so special to him? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. No wonder she was a super mission enforcer. No matter how much 795 despised her, she still had some skills. Ning Shu remembered everything she said. The middle-aged man grunted. What else? Zhang Jiasen said. This pair of grandmother and grandson don't look like poor people. This table is made of yellow pear wood. Zhang Jiasen tapped the table with his finger. Ning Shu looked at the table. Before he thought it was made of a few pieces of wood, and it was a little greasy. Now the texture was clear and beautiful. Ning Shu raised his doubts. What if they don't know the value of yellow pear wood? The villagers didn't know and used antique bowls to feed dogs. Zhang Jiasen looked at Ning Shu. Yellow pear wood is produced in the South China Sea. It's a hot place, and there aren't many of them. Yellow pear wood is mainly imported. This isn't the place where it's produced. It's impossible that they went to the mountains to cut down trees and cut down yellow pear wood. Ning Shu, 0. Damn, I feel like I'm retarded. Ning Shu wrote it down in his notebook. This pair of grandmother and grandson had something to do with it. If they really wanted to harm the people from the Chinese Arts Club, they had to have a reason. They couldn't kill people for no reason. The middle-aged man stood up. Ning Shu and Mei Ziqing said, "You guys keep watch tonight." After the middle-aged man left, Lu Shanshan also left. The others yawned and left. Only Ning Shu and Mei Ziqing were left in the central room. 696, did you find anything? Ning Shu asked. A girl is pregnant, Mei Ziqing said softly. Ning Shu. How do you know? Ning Shu asked curiously. There's an extra soul in her body. It's very weak, Mei Ziqing said. I'm very sensitive to things like souls. She's pregnant when she's still a student. Who's the father? Is he also from the Chinese Arts Club? There's a lot of discord in this team. Ning Shu and Mei Ziqing sat together. The cold wind whistled outside, making the whole world seem even quieter. There was no sign of life at all. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and warmed it in the brazier. Then he prepared to cultivate his ultimate martial arts. Since he woke up in the morning, he had been overwhelmed by what had happened. Someone's here. Mei Ziqing quickly opened the door. Ning Shu also saw a shadow flash by the window. Mei Ziqing ran to the backyard. Ning Shu picked up the flashlight and chased after Mei Ziqing. He saw Mei Ziqing standing under a tree. Ning Shu walked over and asked Mei Ziqing, "Did you find anything?" Mei Ziqing didn't say anything. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and touched Mei Ziqing. Mei Ziqing's body fell down, and blood spurted out from her neck. Ning Shu was shocked. He took a step forward, but his neck was cut by something. Ning Shu reached out and touched it. His neck was wet. Ning Shu shone the flashlight, and found that he had touched a thread as thick as a strand of hair. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't have noticed it. Mei Ziqing was in a hurry, and her neck bumped into the thread. The thread sank into her neck. This thread was extremely tough. Ning Shu tried to pull it, but he couldn't break it. Instead, the thread cut into his palm. Only a sharp blade could kill. A familiar person suddenly died in front of him. Just a moment ago, they were still talking and laughing. Now there was no sign of life. He suddenly understood the fear of the club members. Mei Ziqing fell into a pool of blood. Ning Shu's limbs were numb, and his head was buzzing. He didn't know if she would be killed. She should have a way to avoid being killed. Gotcha. There was the sound of feet stepping on the snow. Ning Shu looked up and saw a black shadow rushing towards him. Chapter 846. A black shadow rushed over. Before Ning Shu could react, a thread was wrapped around her neck. The black shadow tightened its grip around the tough thread from behind. Ning Shu's hands gripped the silk thread tightly. The silk thread dug into her knuckles and sunk deep into her flesh. Ning Shu felt that the bones in her hands were about to be broken by the silk thread. It was excruciating. No matter how painful it was, Ning Shu didn't dare to let go. If she did, her neck would suffer the same pain as Mei Ziqing, who was lying on the ground. Half of her neck had been severed by the thread. The two bodies were tightly pressed together. She could even feel the hot breath of the person behind her. The smell of fragrant wood mixed with the biting cold wind entered her nostrils. Cough, cough. Ningxu coughed and said with difficulty, "Zhang Jiasen, it must be you." The hand holding the thread paused for a moment, then increased its strength. The thread dug deeper into her flesh, and blood dripped onto the ground. The approaching death made Ningxu's hair stand on end. She was terrified and in despair. Ningxu's face turned red. She raised her leg to step on the person behind her, but a kick landed on her calf. She immediately felt a piercing pain. She had only been in this world for a day. There was no time to practice ultimate martial arts. In one day, 3 people had died. There was no time to rest. She was now at a disadvantage. She didn't even have the chance to fight back. From beginning to end, the person behind her didn't say a word. However, Ningxu clearly felt that it was a man. First, it was because of his strength. Second, the angle of his neck. If he was taller than her, the thread would be pulled up slightly. Creak. The sound of a window opening suddenly sounded. Ningxu turned to look at the second floor with bloodshot eyes. There was a weak light in the room. A black shadow stood by the window. Ningxu coughed violently. "Uncle, help." The person behind her didn't run away immediately. Instead, he increased his strength and tightened his grip. The thread dug deeper into his palm. The uncle pulled out a gun from his waist and fired a shot behind Ningxu. With a plop, the person behind Ningxu fell to the ground. His body twitched twice before he stopped breathing. Ningxu immediately fell onto the snowy ground, but before she could rejoice, a voice entered her soul. "No matter what grudges you have, if you start an internal conflict during this mission, you will all be eliminated." Ningxu watched helplessly as the man fired a shot at her with the black gun barrel. Her body seemed to be fixed in place by some kind of force. She didn't even have the strength to move. A soundless force entered her glabella. Ningxu suddenly felt a huge force explode in her soul, wanting to annihilate her soul. The power of the amulet protected Ningxu. The pain in his soul made Ningxu sweat profusely. When he woke up, his soul was still in pain. Sweating profusely, Ningxu shivered as the cold wind blew. She got up from the ground and flipped over the man's body. It was indeed Zhang Jiasen. Damn it! Ningxu was so aggrieved that she almost cried. She was almost killed, and now she was killed again. If it wasn't for the upgraded version of the amulet, she would have to wait for everyone to die this time, and restart the plot again. The feeling of being killed scared Ningxu so much that she peed her pants. She was completely annihilated. Despair and pain. Zhang Jiasen. This bastard who harmed others without benefiting himself. Ningxu kicked Zhang Jiasen's body on the ground, and ran into the central room weakly. The fire in the brazier in the central room had already been extinguished. Ningxu sat on the bench and placed her hands on the table. Her hands were dripping with blood. A silk thread had sunk into her flesh. Scarlet flesh flew everywhere. Ningxu carefully took out the silk thread. This silk thread was very thin but very tough. Where did Zhang Jiasen come from? If Zhang Jiasen possessed the original owner of this body, then this person was also a suspect. Zhang Jiasen used the silk thread to deal with her. She knew that Zhang Jiasen would definitely take revenge on her. She wanted to fish in troubled waters and kill her. Ningxu took out the silk thread. Blood flowed out. Fortunately, she had exchanged for medicine before entering the mission. Ningxu sprinkled the medicine powder on the wound and wrapped it with gauze. However, both of her hands were injured, so it was very inconvenient to wrap the gauze. The door of the room next to the central room opened. Lan walked out using the wall. Her nose twitched. "You're injured." Ningxu grunted. Lan reached out and sat down at the table. "How did you get injured? Were you alone?" Ningxu saw that Lan was staring at one place. Her eyes were not focused. She was clearly talking to him, but she was looking in another direction. "There's another one dead." Ningxu looked at Lan's expression. Lan just pursed her lips. Her reaction was very calm. Ningxu could not help but ask, "You're not afraid?" Lan shook her head. "I can't see, I can't feel. I can't see the beautiful things, and I'm also isolated from the scary things." I know someone died, but I don't feel afraid, Lan said honestly. Ningxu did not know what to say. Lan could not see and did not even know how many people there were. She did not feel anything if 1 or 2 people were missing. However, several people in her family had died. She was not afraid. Ningxu took the anti-inflammatory medicine. He was afraid that it would be tetanus. Lan asked Ningxu, "Are you seriously injured?" "It's okay. I won't die," Ningxu said indifferently. "Grandma said that you guys should leave tomorrow. She said that you guys have provoked evil spirits. They won't stop until you die. We will also be implicated," Lan said. Ningxu pursed his lips and did not speak. The cold wind outside the house blew even more fiercely. The cold wind blew through the cracks in the door and into the house. It was bone-chilling. Ningxu saw that Lan was not wearing much and said, "Go to sleep. It's very cold." "Thank you." Lan stood up and reached out her hand to feel around. "Didn't you go to the hospital to have your eyes checked?" Ningxu asked aloud. Lan touched the wall and said, "We don't have money at home." Ningxu looked at the table made of yellow pear wood. This thing was worth a lot. This was not the origin of yellow pear wood. Moreover, these few pieces of yellow pear wood were put together to form a table. It was probably a tree that was over 100 years old. This pair of grandmother and granddaughter were really problematic. Selling this table would be enough for them to go to the hospital. Ningxu changed his medicine twice. It was very cold in the living room. Mei Ziqing was dead, and there was no one around to talk to. Ningxu took 2 stools and put them together. He sat cross-legged on the stools, and began to practice his ultimate martial arts. If she had a little bit of resistance, she would not have been choked by Zhang Jiasen. It was important to have the ability to protect herself. The uncle killed people mercilessly with a gun, and did not even listen to an explanation. She did not have the strength. If he had enough strength, he would not bother to listen to an aunt's explanation. Chapter 847. Ningxu finally understood what Mei Ziqing meant when he said that first-generation mission enforcers had the right to kill ordinary mission enforcers. If she was strong enough, if that perverted uncle wanted to kill her, she would have to kill him first. Without power, there would be no dignity or right to speak. Only the strong would be respected. After a night of cultivation, a small amount of qi jin appeared in her energy center. Her body was much warmer, and her hands and feet were much more comfortable. The wound that was tied by the silk thread was also itchy and red. Ningxu took a few anti-inflammatory pills to prevent fever and inflammation. The uncle and 795 came downstairs. Ningxu saw the uncle and quickly lowered her head. She could only see his slender legs and the slightly floating corner of his windbreaker. Step by step, he walked down the stairs. It was as if he was stepping on her heart, making it difficult for her to bear. She was afraid of this person. Ningxu took a deep breath and chanted the clear heart mantra in her heart, suppressing the negative emotions in her heart. One day, she would become strong, and one day, she would take her revenge and kill him once and for all. Ningxu fantasized for a while. Damn, 2 more people died in one night. And they were mission enforcers? 795 shrugged. This mission is simply bullshit. Ningxu was speechless. If it wasn't for the upgraded version of the amulet, 3 people would have died. Damn, it would take a lot of merit to exchange for an upgraded version of the amulet. Ningxu's heart was stuffed to the brim. She was about to cry again as she spoke. Wipe the stool. Ningxu waved his hand. Ningxu smiled and raised his messy hand. My hand is lame. Damn, you just killed her once, and now you're asking her to do things again. Do you have any shame? Don't you feel guilty? 795 thought for a while. She used her but to move a few times on the stool. She stood up and said to the uncle, I've wiped it. You can sit. The uncle glanced at him. He didn't sit on the chair he had just sat on. Instead, he sat on the chair next to him. How did 696 and 6,457 die? 795 asked. It was extremely safe to be in the same room as boss. 795 directly fell asleep. What happened last night? This guy doesn't know anything. Ning Shu glanced at the uncle and said, 696 was killed by 6457. To be precise, it was Zhang Jiasin who wanted to kill her. Mei Ziqing was too anxious and was accidentally killed. Ning Shu could feel that Mei Ziqing was very anxious. He was probably in a hurry to catch the culprit and end this mission so that he could gain merit and become a high-level mission enforcer. It was easy to make mistakes when he was anxious. 795 raised his eyebrows. Did you kill 6,457? Ning Shu shook his head. He glanced at the indifferent uncle and said, was he killed? 795 couldn't help but glance at the uncle. He pulled Ning Shu out of the house and asked, what's going on? Ning Shu told 795 the whole story. 795 couldn't help but shake his head. He should have been killed. Didn't he know what kind of mission this is? This plane is about to become a super plane. If the laws really collapse, it will be an unimaginable disaster. Hundreds of millions of creatures in this plane will die directly. The plane fragments and the law fragments will cause damage to the surrounding planes. All planes are connected. Otherwise, why would there be so many transmigrators? Everything is for the sake of the mission. I hate that bitch 496 so much, but she didn't do anything. Grudges can be settled after completing the mission. 795 shook his head. Especially. 795 glanced at the room and whispered, with the first-generation mission enforcers here, we have to be careful. They are the ones who set the rules. Ning Shu couldn't help but sigh. Zhang Jiasin's level was too low. He was a beginner mission enforcer and didn't know much about the higher-ups. That was why he was so impulsive. He wanted revenge too much. 795 patted Ning Shu's shoulder. Take it slow. It's good that 6,457 isn't here. You don't have to be wary of him. Thank you. Ning Shu thanked him. Are the first-generation mission enforcers very strong? Don't they use other people's bodies? Ning Shu asked. They only need to suppress their power to the minimum and directly enter the plane, 795 said. I also want to appear in my handsome original body. Ning Shu. My mouth ulcer is serious. 795 pouted. Give me some saliva. Ning Shu turned and entered the room. When he saw the uncle with his long legs crossed, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Damn, the uncle now was so scary. Where did the cute school doctor, who only knew how to dissect people with a scalpel and not kill people with a gun, go? Dong dong dong. A series of hurried footsteps sounded on the stairs. For 96 Lu Shanshan said to the uncle. 2 girls are dead. The uncle stood up and walked upstairs with his long legs. Ning Shu also hurried to follow. When he entered the room, he saw 2 girls tied up with their backs facing each other. Wooden sticks in the shape of shuttles were inserted from their mouths to the back of their heads. Their heads were like a stick of candied haws. The wooden sticks pierced their heads from their mouths. Their mouths were open to the maximum, and their eyes bulged. The sharp wooden sticks at both ends were stained with blood and brain matter. Ning Shu's pupils constricted. So cruel. Why did they have to kill people like this? Ning Shu felt a chill run down his spine. Was it a perverted killer who pursued the pleasure of killing people? What kind of deep hatred did they have to kill people in such a way? The uncle's face was cold and his body was cold. He wore gloves and checked the situation around him. He looked at the other 2 girls huddled in the corner of the Kong and asked, what happened last night? The 2 girls were already in a trance from fear. When they heard the uncle's voice, their bodies convulsed and they said in horror, No, I don't know. I don't know anything. One of the girls hugged her head. Her eyes were red and she actually cried nervously, we will die, we will all die. Ha 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 ha. While she was crying, a nervous smile appeared on her face. She was scared out of her wits. Plop. The club's president, Fan Junyang, knelt on the ground. His face was full of panic and despair. He desperately knocked his head on the floor, which was dripping with blood. How could this be? How could this be? Fan Junyang muttered to himself. How could this happen? The uncle tightly pursed his lips and coldly said, Take the bodies away. Ning Shu checked the scene. Did the people in the room commit the crime, or did they come in from outside? The uncle lifted his foot and walked to the Kong. He knocked on the wall and the Kong with his hand to see if there were any hidden mechanisms or tunnels. There was no movement at all when they died. Every time they died, it was silent. When people felt pain, they would struggle and scream. But she was awake the whole night and did not hear any sound. If it was done by a human, there would definitely be traces. People were killed when they were unconscious or when they could not feel pain. Was it because they were drugged or injected with anesthetic? Chapter 848. Ningxu suspected that the person who was killed while unconscious. Moreover, the people in the same room as her did not feel anything. Perhaps the people in the same room were all asleep. Ningxu twitched his nose but did not smell anything in the room. He looked around and found a pile of fine dust at the foot of the wall behind the door. Someone had lit incense in the room. Ningxu dipped a bit of dust on her finger and sniffed it, but there was no smell at all. There was really no smell at all. The uncle walked over and squatted beside Ningxu, looking at the incense. Hidden incense, the uncle said lightly. Ningxu was surprised. Ningxu had heard of hidden incense before. This type of incense had no smell at all. Hidden meant that it was hidden and there was no smell at all. However, this incense had a strong calming effect. Legend had it that when Hua Tuo was scraping Guan Yu's bones, he lit the hidden incense. Guan Yu did not feel any pain at all. When the bones were scraped, he could drink wine, eat meat, chat, and play chess. Everyone in the room was dead asleep, but the person who was killed was completely unaware. Ningxu walked to the two girls huddled in the corner of the Kong bed. He reached out and pinched the girl's arm. The girl did not seem to feel any pain. He did not find this in the room earlier. It must have been cleaned. Hidden incense was very rare. The workmanship was complicated, and it belonged to the type that had lost its secret recipe. There was no such thing on the market. Rare things were definitely expensive, ridiculously expensive. How could such a thing appear in such a place? 749 came to Ningxu's side and said, "In this group of people, other than the dead Pan Xin, Fan Juanyang's family is the richest." Ningxu looked at Fan Juanyang, whose face was covered in blood. He sat on the ground dispiritedly and leaned against the wall. All signs pointed to Fan Juanyang as the most suspicious. The uncle stood up. Ningxu said, "Take the bodies down." "My hand is crippled." Ningxu raised his hand. "I'll do it," 749 said. 749 was very strong. He carried the corpses down the stairs. The uncle said to Fan Juanyang, "Gather everyone in the central room." "All right." Fan Juanyang struggled to stand up, but he had kowtowed too hard and felt dizzy. He went to call for help. Ningxu followed the uncle down to the central room. In the central room, the old woman looked at the corpses in the courtyard and muttered about their sins. "Can you leave this place? What did you provoke?" The old woman asked in a panic. "Please leave, I beg you. I don't want your money, and I don't want your lodging fee." The old woman leaned on her crutches, looking panicked and scared, a sharp contrast with Lan behind her. Lan's face was a little blank, because she couldn't see. Even though she knew that someone had died, she couldn't see how the person died. Lan was the only one in the group who was truly fearless. Fan Juanyang called for everyone to come down. The central room was filled with people. Everyone was trembling in fear. There was also a girl who was scared out of her wits. She was giggling. Her laughter made people's hair stand on end, especially when they were so nervous and scared. "Teacher, what should we do?" Fan Juanyang said desperately. He shouted, "I can't take it anymore." The uncle looked indifferent. "Then what do you want? Do you want to leave?" "I'd rather leave than stay in this place. There are ghosts here. I can't take it anymore." Fan Juanyang's voice changed. His fingers couldn't help but tremble. "It's you who touched something and brought it here. You even said that there are ghosts here." The old woman leaned on her crutches, looking angry. Lan pulled the old woman's clothes and said, "Grandma, it's snowing outside. How do you want them to leave? These people died in our house. How can this be? Do we still want people to live in this house?" The old woman's voice rose. The room was silent. Only the sound of breathing could be heard. Some girls cried silently, but they didn't dare to run. They wanted to leave, but when they thought of Lin Xia, who ran out, she didn't come back for the whole night. She was probably dead. Many people placed their gazes on the tall, upright, and calm middle-aged man, their eyes filled with anticipation. Lu Shanshan asked the uncle, "Teacher, do you know who the murderer is?" "I think Fan Junyang is the most suspicious," Lu Shanshan said. 749 immediately said, "I said you're still suspicious. You have to have evidence first. Are you a man? You're as petty as a woman." Lu Shanshan looked at him with disgust. She then turned to look at the uncle. 749 pursed his lips. "You take the opportunity to get close to a man. Disgusting." Lu Shanshan looked at 749 with a murderous look. But when she thought about how the uncle was still beside her, she suppressed it. She turned her head and didn't look at the annoying 749. "I didn't kill anyone. I have no reason to kill anyone. I'm the president of the Chinese Arts Society. If something happens to the members, I have the biggest responsibility." Fan Junyang was so anxious that his face turned red. The blood on his face had already dried. The other members looked at Fan Junyang with vigilance. Some of them even stayed away from him. Fan Junyang's face was full of bitterness. Ning Shu and the other mission enforcer stood at the side and didn't say anything. The most important task now was to survive. The 32 members of the Chinese Arts Society were all dead. Ning Shu looked at the old lady and Lan. He tried to recall the plot. The members were all dead. What about the two of them? There weren't many plots for the two of them. Moreover, the plot had already been reincarnated countless times. The plot had already changed beyond recognition. Ning Shu couldn't help but scratch his head. What should he do if he caught the murderer? Kill the murderer? The mission this time was to stop the endless reincarnation. But how? They had been looking for the murderer since the beginning. But they couldn't find the murderer. Instead, more and more people died. The murderer appeared and disappeared mysteriously. Ning Shu felt that this pair of grandmother and granddaughter were the most suspicious. What about the motive? Could it be that killing people was fun? Ning Shu put himself in their shoes. A group of people stayed in his house. Why would he want to kill them all? For money? If it was really this pair of grandmother and granddaughter, they had the yellow pear tree. If the Tibetan incense was also theirs, it meant that they didn't lack money. Too bored? They wanted to play a killing game with these people. Guess who I am? Revenge? Among these people, there were enemies of this pair of grandmother and granddaughter? But they killed everyone. Could it be that they were afraid of being discovered? So they killed everyone. Ning Shu's mind was in a mess. Logic didn't make sense. The uncle pointed at the crazy and scared girl and said, "Don't pretend to be crazy. You killed the two girls." Everyone looked at the crazy girl in a daze. The girl was still giggling. Lu Man. The people she killed. Everyone immediately moved away from her. The crazy look on Lu Man's face could no longer be maintained. The uncle said impatiently, "Tie her up. Take turns watching." Chapter 849. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't kill them, Lu Man explained anxiously. If you didn't kill anyone, why are you acting crazy? Lu Shanshan sneered. You're just giving yourself away. Lu Man bit her lip and swore. I really didn't kill anyone. I didn't. Because you're pregnant, the uncle said indifferently. Lu Man's eyes widened, and she reflexively covered her stomach. The others looked at Lu Man strangely. Lu Man's face was red. I'm not pregnant. I'm not. As Lu Man spoke, she beat her stomach with her hand to prove that she wasn't pregnant. However, after beating it twice, her face became very pale and she didn't dare to beat it again. Ning Shu looked at Lu Man. Mei Ziqing had said that a girl was pregnant. So it was her. Mei Ziqing could see souls. Could the uncle also see that there was an extra soul in Lu Man's body? Ning Shu immediately understood. He was a first-generation mission enforcer and could definitely see it. Why did you kill them? And in such a cruel way? Fan Junyang asked in shock. Lu Man bit her lip and said, They whispered that I was pregnant. Ning Shu pursed his lips and directly used the stick to pierce their mouths. Ning Shu asked, Where did you get the hidden incense? What hidden incense? I don't know. Lu Man shook her head with tears streaming down her face. Her face was full of regret. Ningxu looked at the uncle. The uncle's face was indifferent. Tie them up and take turns watching. Did you kill the others? Lu Shanshan asked. Lu Man was tied up. She shook her head and said, I only killed 2. You really? Ningxu was speechless. Lu Man stared at Ningxu. What do you know? I was raped. A man raped me. Lu Man broke down and shouted. Ningxu pursed his lips and apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't know. However, she was raped by a man and became pregnant. Because of this, she had to kill the person who gossiped. He was in such a sorry state that he even loathed himself and wanted to kill him. However, this matter was still unsolved. Who lit the incense, and who killed the people in front of them? Is the man who raped you in the team? Ningxu asked. Lu Man's hands and feet were tied. She sat on the ground with her head lowered. Her body trembled and tears fell to the ground. She didn't seem to hear Ningxu's words and didn't make a sound. Ningxu said, Let's untie her. With so many people watching, she can't do anything. You're so disgusting. You're like a white lotus. Do you sympathize with her? She killed people for her own selfish desires. What's there to sympathize with? Lu Shanshan said disdainfully. She looked at Ningxu with disdain. Ningxu was speechless. Well, she was a white lotus. A pregnant woman sitting on the cold ground. Even if she was going to be executed, she would wait for the child to be born. Do you think everyone is as cold and heartless as you? She didn't kill you. Why are you so indignant? If you were raped, you would do the same. 795 suddenly choked. No, even if a man raped you, you would be very happy. Ningxu was speechless. Damn, what kind of deep hatred did she have to use such words to attack someone? Lu Shanshan was so angry that her whole body trembled. She pointed at 795 and said fiercely, I won't let you go. See, I only said a few words and you're like this. 749 shrugged his shoulders. Do you want to kill me for your own selfish desires? You. Lu Shanshan was so angry that her eyes were red. Teacher, let's just tie her up. The members said one after another. We're all from the same club and we're all familiar with each other. How could she do this? She's too cruel. Lu Man still had her head lowered and didn't say a word. Ningxu didn't say anything. He would never know what it was like if it didn't happen to him. Lu Man was thrown alone in a corner. No one dared to get close to her. She curled her legs and knocked her forehead on her knees. People who passed by her would take a detour, forming a vacuum around her. The central room was quiet. The cold wind was blowing outside, and the heavy atmosphere was pressing down on everyone's hearts. So what if they caught the murderer of the 2 girls? They couldn't leave at all. It was easy to get lost in the vast expanse of white. The snow had already covered their calves. It was as if there was an inexplicable force preventing them from leaving. The murders had been happening in this house in a cycle. Old lady, please prepare some food for us, Fan Junyang said tiredly. The old lady supported herself with her walking stick and said impatiently and anxiously, Can't you all leave my house? Each of you has a murderous aura. Grandma, it's snowing so heavily now. Let's wait, Lan said. Ningxu raised his eyebrows and asked, Lan, you can see the snow? Lan shook her head. I can hear it. Rain and snow have sounds. Then did you hear anything upstairs last night? Ningxu asked. Lan said, There are footsteps. There are footsteps every night. It's the sound of you getting up and walking around. Ningxu saw that he couldn't get anything out of her, so he shut up. The old lady took her granddaughter to prepare breakfast. 3 meals a day were black flour steamed buns and porridge. When the old lady served rice, she was the first to serve it to Fan Junyang. She even scooped it dry. Just as Lu Shanshan said, there was something fishy going on. Ningxu felt his head hurt badly. He felt that everyone was a murderer. There was no progress at all. Ningxu turned to look at the uncle. His eyebrows were cold, and he couldn't tell what he was thinking. He was holding a scalpel that was shining with a silver light in his hand, which looked particularly terrifying. What's the matter? The uncle turned to look at Ningxu. When he met the uncle's eyes, Ningxu immediately cowered. He remembered the feeling of being killed. He shook his head and said, "Nothing. Do you want to eat a steamed bun?" Ningxu handed him a black flour steamed bun. Ningxu did it on purpose. This kind of steamed bun looked black and dirty. Ningxu felt that he wouldn't eat it. Starve to death. Instructor, eat mine. Lu Shanshan took a steamed bun and handed it to the uncle. Faced with this situation, Ningxu retracted his hand and put the steamed bun in his mouth. This super mission enforcer was obviously doing this to the uncle. He didn't want to join in the fun. The uncle took out a bottle of water from somewhere. He looked at the black flour steamed bun with disdain. "I'm not hungry." Lu Shanshan's face turned red. She didn't know if it was because she was embarrassed or embarrassed. TSK 795 started to act up again. "Don't other people have hands? Why do you have to take it?" Lu Shanshan looked calm and glanced at 795 indifferently. 795 straightened her face and pointed at Lu Shanshan. "If I die, it will be you who killed me. Ningxu." Chapter 850. He didn't know what grudges there were between 795 and Lu Shanshan. No matter what Lu Shanshan said, 795 immediately objected and insisted on going against her. Ningxu felt that 795 must have a crush on Lu Shanshan and wanted to use a unique way to attract her attention. Lu Shanshan was the most beautiful woman Ningxu had ever seen. Her temperament and appearance were top-notch, especially her ancient clothes, which made her look otherworldly. She didn't look like the bitch 795 was talking about at all. There was nothing wrong with liking someone, but 795's way of doing things had angered Lu Shanshan. Not to mention liking her. She might even want to destroy her. Ningxu looked at 795,795, who was eating a black steamed bun, with an inexplicable gaze. Seeing Ningxu's gaze, she asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Ningxu said, "If you like someone, work hard and earn a lot of money. When she gets married, you can contribute more money." 795. "What are you talking about?" 795 was confused. Ningxu smacked his lips and understood. Ningxu ate a steamed bun and saw Lu Manman, who was squatting in the corner with her head lowered. Ningxu took a steamed bun and walked over. He said, "Eat something." Lu Manman still had her head lowered and ignored Ningxu. Ningxu put the steamed bun in a bowl and placed it beside her. He sat beside Lu Manman and asked, "Did you kill both of them?" A pregnant girl tied two other girls together and killed them with a wooden stick. "How did you think of using such a method?" Ningxu asked. Lu Manman buried her head. Her body was trembling slightly, and her voice was nasal. "I hate them for whispering and saying such nasty things. I really want to cut their tongues." "Who raped you?" Ningxu asked softly. Lu Manman did not say anything. "Where did you get your wooden stick? Moreover, it was sharpened. If you wanted to kill someone, you would have such a tool." Their hearts were dug out by claws. Their heads were skewered by wooden sticks, and their eyes were pierced by writing brushes. "It's in the shed next to the kitchen," Lu Manman said without raising her head. Ningxu stood up and walked out of the central room. He stepped on the thick snow and arrived at the shed next to the kitchen. It was a very simple shed with some firewood inside. On the side, there was a pile of wooden sticks that were half the height of a person. The wooden sticks were about half the size of a fist, and they were all sharpened. Lu Manman took the weapon from here. Ningxu walked slowly to the central room. When he passed by the kitchen, he saw Lan sitting in front of the stove. Ningxu thought for a moment, then walked into the kitchen and asked Lan, "What's the use of the sharpened wooden sticks next to it?" Lan said, "They're used to make fences. Grandma said that when the snow melts, we'll plant vegetables in the yard. Those wooden sticks were sharpened by Grandma. They're sharpened so that they can be used as stakes." Ningxu pursed his lips. This explanation was very logical. Lu Manman saw this thing and used it as a weapon. Ningxu turned and walked out of the kitchen. From the corner of his eye, he saw Lan, who was bending over to pick up the firewood, wearing a red rope around her neck. It seemed to be something to ward off evil spirits, such as a jade pendant or talisman paper. It probably never left her body. The red rope was a little black. Is there anything else? Lan asked with empty eyes. Ningxu asked with some surprise. You knew I was looking at you? Lan said. My eyes can't see, but my other senses are much more sensitive. Besides, you've been staring at me. I can feel it. Even if I eat steamed buns every day, there are no vegetables. Can you make some vegetable soup? I'm constipated. Ningxu touched his stomach. It's so swollen. In a northern area like this, there should be cellars to store some potatoes and sweet potatoes. Ningxu wanted to find a reason to go to the cellar. Lan shook her head. Grandma is old, and I can't see. The vegetables I planted aren't enough to eat in winter. Is that so? There's no vegetables in the cellar now? Ningxu asked. Lan shook her head. Actually, there's not much food at home. Grandma has always wanted you to leave. First, there's evil spirit on you. Second, there's not much food at home. If you don't leave, we'll starve to death. We can't leave in this weather, Ningxu said. Why don't we eat once a day from now on? Lan smiled, but her eyes were empty. Coupled with her smile, it seemed a little creepy. Ningxu left the kitchen and returned to the living room. Uncle Ningxu waved. Come here. Ningxu felt uncomfortable. He slowly moved over. Instructor, what's the matter? You're not dead, Uncle said. Ningxu was speechless. Fuck, what's wrong with him? It's one thing to kill someone, but he's deliberately provoking me. Ningxu's mouth twitched. He didn't know how to answer him. Remember, as a mission enforcer, you have to know what's important in order to go far. Endless life comes with a price. Uncle pointed at the chair next to him. Sit. Ningxu sat down. His hair stood on end. He could feel the uncle's cold aura through his clothes. Thank you, instructor. I understand, Ningxu said sincerely. Fuck, Ningxu really wanted to beat his chest. He was so sullen. He had been killed, and he still had to thank him. Uncle glanced at Ningxu. He crossed his long legs and tilted his neck slightly. His neck moved a little. Ningxu heard it and felt a little creepy. Are you afraid of me? Uncle turned to look at Ningxu. Ahahaha. Ningxu faked a laugh. I'm not afraid. Ningxu straightened his back and put his hands on his knees. He was so fucking afraid of death. The person next to him was in control of other people's fates. He had only killed him once last night. I'm just asking you if you're scared. Are you scared? Anyway, Ningxu was afraid of death. Ah! Screams came from upstairs. Ningxu quickly stood up. Something must have happened again. Ningxu quickly went upstairs. 795 ran down the stairs and bumped into Ningxu. Ningxu fell to the ground. Aya, can you watch where you're going? 795 pulled Ningxu up and said anxiously to Uncle. He died again. This time, it's even more disgusting. Uncle stood up and went upstairs with his long legs. Ningxu hurried upstairs and saw a room full of people. Some girls were even supporting themselves against the wall and vomiting. Ningxu squeezed into the room and saw a corpse hanging upside down in the room. The lower half of the body was naked, and both legs were tied up with ropes. The palm-wide saw went from the crotch to the abdomen. It was as if the person was going to be cut in half. The buttocks were already separated, and the saw had already reached the navel. What was more terrifying was that this person seemed to be conscious. Because he was hanging upside down, there was enough blood to provide oxygen to his head. In his conscious state, he could clearly feel the saw in his body. Chapter 851. Looking at such a dead person, Ningxu felt as if a huge hammer had hammered on her heart, making her dizzy. Ningxu's stomach churned and she wanted to vomit, especially when there was a bloody smell in the room mixed with the filth in the intestines. It was extremely disgusting. It challenged her psychological endurance again and again. The uncle looked at the body coldly and turned to leave. It seemed that he did not intend to do an autopsy. He was really not a qualified autopsy officer. Besides, the body was cut open, and it was the same. Ningxu covered her nose and walked into the room. The room was very small, and there was a spittoon in the corner. which was temporarily used as a toilet. It was too cold at night, and the toilet was in the backyard. No one could rest well when running up and down, and the weather was too cold. In other words, when this person went to the toilet, his pants were taken off and he was hung upside down. The body was still warm, and the cut-open body was still steaming. The male features were already unrecognizable. His mouth was stuffed with rags, and his eyeballs were protruding. He was dying. When he saw Ningxu, his eyes begged, but in the end he still breathed his last. 795 walked in, glanced at the body, shook his head and said, "It's too cruel. This would make people suffer for a while longer." Ningxu sighed and said to 795, "Put him down." How many was this? It was the 8th. "I'll do it." 595 put the body down. When he dragged it down, there was a long blood stain. Ningxu went downstairs and saw the pregnant Lu Manman looking at the body that had been sawed. Her eyes were full of sneer and pleasure. She turned her head and saw Ningxu. She immediately lowered her head and shrank in the corner. Ningxu walked to Lu Manman, narrowed his eyes and asked, "He is the one who raped you, right?" Lu Manman lowered her head and did not speak. Ningxu could not help but rub his forehead. It was a big headache. Another one died. Ningxu asked 795, "Do you have any clues?" In any case, it was done by this group of people. It might be a coordinated crime. 795 said, "The footprints on the ground are messy and the sizes are different. Obviously, there are more than 2 people. Aren't you upstairs? Don't you know what's going on upstairs?" Ningxu asked. She was talking to the uncle downstairs. 795 brushed her hair. It happened very quickly. It only took a short while. The crime scene must have been set up beforehand. It should be 2 men. Girls wouldn't go into the male toilet, would they? The place where the girls lived had a spittoon behind the door. 795 heaved a sigh of relief. The mission this time is really a bit dangerous. If people die, we will be forced to reincarnate. I have some ways to avoid being erased. What about you? 795 Ningxu asked. Every reincarnation is equivalent to being erased once. Ningxu was speechless. He really wanted to die. Why did he randomly accept this mission? Do you have anyone in mind? Ningxu asked. We can't just sit here and wait for death. I suspect that the deaths of these people are a religious ceremony, 795 guessed. Some religions have some fanatics who will use all kinds of extreme methods to show their loyalty and faith to the religion. Ningxu thought for a moment and asked, "You think it's a religious ceremony?" But Lu Manman killed those 2 girls. Ningxu said, "There are too many suspicious points in this, and 696 was killed by the mission enforcer." 795 was also annoyed. There must be something more important that we have overlooked. There is still no news of Lin Xia who ran out. If it's really a religious ceremony, her body will definitely appear, 795 said. I once encountered a mission where a serial killer would place all the bodies in a special position and use a special killing method. The problem now is that there is more than one murderer among these people. Could it be that he killed them all and then committed suicide? Ningxu said angrily. 795 shrugged. That's hard to say. Ningxu thought for a moment and whispered to 795. Let's explore this house. With so many murder tools, there must be a place to hide them. In the northern area, every house has a cellar. So far, I haven't found where the cellar is. I think the cellar is the best place to hide things. 795 nodded and looked at the whole house with Ningxu. Ningxu even went to the pigsty to check, but he didn't see the cellar. There was no cellar at all in this house. There is no cellar, which means there are other secret passages in the house, 795 said. This pair of grandfather and grandson must be involved in this killing. Ningxu kicked away the black pig that rushed toward him, and his shoes were stained with pig feces. 795 grabbed Ningxu's arm and pulled him out of the pigsty. Why did you go to the pigsty to look for them? The more unexpected the place, the more likely it is. Ningxu wiped the dirt on his shoes on the snow. 795 rolled his eyes. Ningxu and 795 walked into the central room and saw the uncle move the table in the middle of the room. He squatted down and knocked on the floor with his hand. The place made a hollow sound. Obviously, the floor was empty. The more unexpected the place, the more likely it is. Ningxu quickly walked over and looked for the cracks in the floor. The floor in this kind of rural village was made of mud. Ningxu had to look for cracks everywhere. "What are you doing?" The old woman saw Ningxu lying on the ground and couldn't help but ask with her walking stick. "I dropped something. I'm looking for it." Ningxu got up from the ground. The uncle sat aside and looked at Ningxu. He moved his nose and smelled a very bad smell. The uncle turned and went upstairs. "What are you looking for?" Lan asked Ningxu. "A small diamond on the hair clip," Ningxu lied. Lan's pinhole-sized pupils stared in one direction. "Grandma said another person died, right?" Lan asked. "What is the reason for people to keep dying?" Ningxu scratched his head. He still wanted to know what the reason was. Bang! There was a loud sound from upstairs. It sounded like something heavy fell on the floor. Ningxu's heart skipped a beat. Something happened again. Ningxu hurried upstairs and saw a girl lying on the ground. Her face was chopped by an axe. The axe was deeply embedded in her facial bone. Ningxu was really annoyed. Why did another person die? How could this be? Fan Juanyang's expression became more and more frantic. "We have to leave here. We can't stay here." Ningxu asked Fan Juanyang, "What is the reason? Why do you have to come here in this weather?" Fan Juanyang covered his head with both hands. "I heard from Panchen that the snow here is very beautiful." But Panchen was already dead. Ningxu saw a red rope around Fan Juanyang's neck. He couldn't see the pendant because it was inside his clothes. Chapter 852. Ningxu saw the red rope around Fan Juanyang's neck. She had also seen it around Lan's neck. She thought about it and felt that it was a coincidence. Since she did not see the pendant, it did not mean that they were related. Fan Juanyang wiped his face. He could not bear to look at the body on the ground that was deeply cut by the axe. "I want to leave this place. I don't want to stay here." Fan Juanyang's eyes were red like he was about to cry. The others were panicking. Seeing their members die one by one, and in such a cruel way, they could not help but curse. "Why did I come to this place? I'm scared. I want to go home. Motherfucker. Who is it? Come out, man or ghost?" The anxious atmosphere made it hard for people to breathe. They suspected that the people around them were like birds startled by the twang of a bow. "Fan Juanyang, it was you who brought us here. I want to go home now, go home." A boy grabbed Fan Juanyang's collar and punched him heavily in the face. Fan Juanyang fell to the ground. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He did not retaliate. He sat on the ground and pulled his hair. The boy wanted to hit Fan Juanyang again but was stopped by the others. "Wang Jie, forget it. It's useless to kill him now." The boy called Wang Jie sneered. "He might be the murderer. Everyone will be safe if he's killed." The uncle was squatting down to examine the body. He pulled out the axe from the body's face and stood up, holding the bloody axe in his hand. "What are you doing? Go to the central room and stay there. If anyone dares to take a step out, I won't be polite." The uncle narrowed his eyes at Wang Jie. Wang Jie met the uncle's eyes and immediately lowered his head. "Drag the body to the yard," the uncle said calmly and turned to go downstairs. The others followed behind the uncle. 795 looked at the body on the ground and sighed. He moved the body downstairs. "I'll help you," Wang Jie said. "Okay." 795 and Wang Jie moved the body downstairs. Ningxu followed behind the two of them. The sticky blood of the corpses dripped onto the floor. There had been several murders in this building. The blood on the floor had already dried, forming a dark red stain. There were already a few corpses under the snow in the courtyard. There was 696 Mei Ziqing, Zhang Jiasen, 2 girls, Panchen, a girl who had her eyes pierced, a boy whose body was cut in half, a girl who was hacked to death by an axe, a girl whose heart was dug out and left in the toilet, and Lin Xia, who had run away without any news until now. 10 people had died in such a short time. Do you think someone faked his death? Let's dig up the corpse and see if it's still there? Ningxu said. These corpses were buried under the snow. Who knew if the corpses were still there? 795 thought for a while, took out a shovel and a hoe, and handed them to Ningxu. Then let's dig. Let me do it, her hand is injured. Wang Jie took the shovel and said. 795 glanced at Ningxu's bandaged hand, and didn't say anything. He and Wang Jie started to dig up the corpses. Ningxu stared at Wang Jie. This person didn't have much of a presence, but he was so active now. It gave Ningxu a strange feeling. 795 and Wang Jie dug up the corpses one by one. These corpses were frozen stiff, but their organs had started to rot. There was a strange smell. Ningxu checked if there was a red rope around the corpses' necks. The girls were wearing jewelry like necklaces, but there was no red rope. One was a girl from the countryside, and the other was the president of a university club. Both of them were wearing red ropes, so there must be some connection between them. Whether it was a coincidence or not, he had to investigate. However, Ningxu still found that one of the corpses was missing. The delicate and refined Pan Chen was gone. Pan Chen's head had hit the door sill, causing brain death. But now his body was gone. One person is missing. 795 touched his chin. Even if he's not the murderer, he's related to the murderer. Wang Jie said. Who took his body? Or is he not dead at all? Where is he hiding now? Ningxu looked at Wang Jie. Why was he so active? Wang Jie scratched his head and looked at Ningxu. He asked, does your hand still hurt? What does it have to do with you? Ningxu grinned and didn't say anything. He turned around and went back to the central room. He brushed off the snow on his body and walked in. He said to the uncle, Pan Chen's body is gone. The uncle just narrowed his eyes. When the others heard the news, they started to whisper. Is Pan Chen the murderer? Pan Chen is not dead. Stay in the central room. Don't go out. The uncle said indifferently. It was getting dark. Everyone was hungry. There was no place to sit, so they just sat on the ground. The sound of their stomachs growling could be heard. It was quiet in the central room. Everyone looked dispirited. They were scared, hungry, and tired. They sat back to back. Ningxu had eaten the fasting pill, so he didn't feel hungry. He also cultivated some qi jin, so his body was in good condition. It was just that the wound on his hand was very itchy. Wang Jie and 795 buried the body with snow again. They entered the room and brought a chill. The old woman and Lan made dinner for everyone. Dinner was even less now. The black steamed buns were even smaller than before. They just had to be eaten with a bowl of water. Everyone chewed slowly. They were afraid that they would finish it all at once. They only had one meal a day, and it was such a small steamed bun. 795 ate the steamed bun absent-mindedly. He didn't feel hungry after eating the fasting pill for half a month. He really couldn't eat the lumps. For you. Wang Jie tore half of the black steamed bun and gave it to Ningxu. Ningxu was confused. One who was being nice for no reason was hiding evil intentions. Thank you, but I don't need it. Ningxu rejected directly. I don't know you at all. Tisk. The uncle squinted his eyes. There was a hint of mockery on his face. It was unknown whether he was looking at Ningxu or Wang Jie. Wang Jie saw the uncle looking at him. He didn't insist on giving Ningxu the steamed bun. He lowered his head and ate. The old woman carried the brazier to the central room. It was still made of fragrant wood. The room was a little warmer, and there was a faint fragrance. The old woman bent her body and said with a walking stick, When can you leave? There is no food in the house. As the leader of the team, Fan Junyang naturally had to solve the problem. He said helplessly, Old woman, can you go to another house to buy some food? We will pay you any price. How much food can we have in this poor place? It's good enough that we can survive this winter. There is no surplus food. The old woman shook her head and said. The old woman's expression was very bad. Her gaze was very unfriendly. It was as if everyone in the house was eating for free. Sai, let us stay for 2 more days. We will leave as soon as the snow stops. Fan Junyang gritted his teeth and said, Saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda. Moreover, there are so many of us. Chapter 853. The old woman leaned on her walking stick and her face looked terrible. If we save you, we will starve to death. Why don't you think about us? Fan Junyang sighed. This was simply an unsolvable problem. We can only go to the other households tomorrow to see if there is any food. The old woman walked into the room next to the central room with her walking stick. Lan dragged the old woman into the room. Ningxu narrowed his eyes and carefully looked at the red rope around Lan and Fan Junyang's neck. It felt very similar. Ningxu looked at the other people's necks to see if there was a red rope. But it was winter and some people wore scarves to cover their necks. It was impossible to see. If there was a chance, he must get the things around Fan Junyang and Lan's necks. Because the uncle said that no one could leave tonight. Whether it was going to the toilet or doing other things, they had to report. Some people took blankets and covered themselves with them to warm each other up. Ningxu sat cross-legged in the corner and closed his eyes to cultivate. He looked like he was sleeping. Wang Jie sat beside Ningxu. Ningxu opened his eyes and looked at Wang Jie vigilantly. What are you doing? Nothing. Wang Jie smiled. Actually, I like you. I don't know how long we can live. I want to tell you how I feel before I die. Ningxu tilted his body. This guy likes the original owner? TSK, why didn't he try to please her before? Why would he suddenly appear now? Who would believe him? Could it be that he wanted to have a breakthrough before he died, so that he could have a good sleep? It wasn't that Ningxu's heart was dark. It was just that men were more calculating than women. They would only try to curry favor if there were benefits. After the fear was magnified, it gave birth to thoughts that they didn't dare to think about. Ningxu moved to the side and away from Wang Jie. Anyway, this person gave him a very bad feeling. Lu Man, who was squatting in the corner, whispered, I want to go to the toilet. Ningxu was annoyed by Wang Jie. Hearing Lu Man's words, he said, I'll go with you. Thank you. Lu Man said to Ningxu. She was tied with a rope and said, Can you help me untie the rope? You're not allowed to untie the rope. The uncle said indifferently, 2 more people will go with you. You go too, the uncle said to Lu Shanshan. Lu Shanshan's expression was a little reluctant. She spread out the quilt and really didn't want to go. However, since the uncle had spoken, Lu Shanshan had to do it even if she was unwilling. I'll go in with you. Ningxu pulled Lu Shanshan's arm and entered the room next to the central room. There was a spittoon in the room. However, Ningxu looked around and did not find spittoon. Where did spittoon go? How would I know? Lu Shanshan frowned. Lu Man clamped her legs together, and her face was red. Obviously, she couldn't hold it in anymore. Plus, she was pregnant, so she had to urinate frequently. We can only go out and solve it, Ningxu said. Ningxu opened the door, and a bone-chilling wind blew into the room. Suddenly, the room was filled with the sound of breathing. Ningxu and Lu Shanshan went outside and planned to urinate in the yard. Ningxu took off Lu Man's pants. Pee. Can you not look at me? I can't pee, Lu Man said in a muffled voice. What are you afraid of? We're all women, Ningxu said indifferently. Lu Shanshan was so cold that she couldn't help but rub her hands. When Lu Man finished peeing, Ningxu pulled up her pants again and returned to the room. Thank you. Lu Man thanked Ningxu. No need. But in the middle of the night, Lu Man said to Ningxu, I want to go to the bathroom. Ningxu was speechless. Ningxu looked at Lu Shanshan and Lu Shanshan fell asleep. Ningxu took the flashlight and said to Lu Man, let's go. I'm the eldest, Lu Man said. Ningxu was speechless. He brought Lu Man to the yard and said, let's do it here. I want to go to the bathroom. Lu Man's face was hot. Right here. The bathroom is too dangerous. If you pee, just bury it in the snow. Ningxu shook his head. He couldn't imagine what the yard would look like after the snow melted. There would be feces, urine, and corpses. Lu Man had no choice but to do it in the yard. Someone's here. Ningxu saw a dark shadow flash by from the corner of his eye. Ningxu grabbed Lu Man's clothes and didn't chase after the shadow. It was obvious that the shadow wanted to lure him away. The uncle stood at the door. Ningxu asked, What did you see? A shadow flashed by, Ningxu said. The uncle turned around and went back into the house. Lu Man was so embarrassed that her face was red. She was still naked. After tidying up for a while, Ningxu and Lu Man entered the house. Lu Man was still squatting in the corner. Ningxu saw that everyone was in the house and didn't go out at all. This meant that there were other people in the house. "Teacher, is it possible that Panchen isn't dead?" Ningxu said. "And Panchen's body is missing." "Two people are missing," the uncle said. "Who said that the people in the house can't leave?" Ningxu was speechless. Ningxu felt that there was still no progress. He said, "At least the people in the central room didn't go out." The uncle smiled. Ningxu was speechless. Was he mocking her? Ningxu looked at the room of the old woman and Lan. Because Lan couldn't see, the grandmother and granddaughter slept together. If there was a passage in their room that led outside, it was hard to say. He had to find a chance to enter their room and take a look. Ningxu glanced at Fan Junyang, who was sleeping against the wall. He was wearing a red rope around his neck. Ningxu turned and saw the scalpel in the uncle's hand. He asked, "Can you lend me the scalpel?" The uncle glanced at Ningxu and handed the scalpel to Ningxu. Ningxu took the scalpel and carefully twisted the red rope around Fan Junyang's neck. He cut Fan Junyang's body and carefully pulled out the pendant. Fan Junyang moved his body, as if he was about to wake up. Ningxu quickly put away the pendant. "Thank you." Ningxu returned the scalpel to the uncle and looked down at the pendant in his hand. The pendant was very ordinary. It was a very simple stone. The stone was round and there was a strange pattern drawn on it. It was very abstract. Ningxu couldn't tell what it was. Ningxu reached out his hand and Ningxu gave the pendant to the uncle. "Give it to me after you wipe it clean." The uncle didn't take it. Ningxu was speechless. This kind of strange illness was the most annoying. When did it happen again? Ningxu wiped the pendant on his body before handing it to the uncle. Even if he wiped it again, there would still be bacteria on it. The uncle looked at the stone and smiled. "This is good stuff." Ningxu thought back to the books he had read. None of the books mention this kind of thing. "What is this?" Ningxu asked softly. "Do you believe that this thing can bring the dead back to life?" The uncle raised his eyebrows. Ningxu immediately asked, "What kind of treasure is this?" "I'm not telling you." The uncle put the pendant away. Chapter 854. Ningxu saw that the uncle had no intention of returning the item. She asked, "Should I return this to Fan Junyang?" "Why should I return it to him?" The uncle said calmly. "Then can you tell me what this is?" Ningxu asked, scratching her head. No matter how she looked at it, it was just an ordinary stone, not a treasure. "It's a type of spirit stone. This is a child stone. There should be a mother stone," the uncle said in a good mood. Idiot. He still didn't understand what it was. "What's it used for?" Ningxu asked. "It can absorb souls." "It can absorb souls from thousands of meters away," the uncle said. Ningxu nodded. This kind of stone could absorb souls. No wonder Mei Ziqing said that she didn't see any souls. Her soul must have been absorbed by this stone. This kind of stone that could absorb souls was very similar to her spirit pearl. Could it be that Fan Junyang killed so many people to collect souls? There should be a passage under the table. "It should be empty," the uncle Ningxu said. Ningxu was speechless. "You only know how to command people." Ningxu crawled under the table and felt around to see where the gap was. It was empty, but she didn't know where the mechanism was. There was also a thick layer of soil above the passage. Ningxu went to the woodshed in the yard to get a shovel and prepared to use it to pry the soil. With just a little movement, a few people woke up. Ningxu asked Wang Jie, "What are you doing?" Ningxu immediately put the shovel on his shoulder and said, "I'm using this as a weapon. If the murderer comes, I can fight back. There are so many people. The murderer won't act for now," 795 said. "You didn't see wrong, did you?" "No, someone just flashed by," Ningxu said. Hearing someone speak, the people in the central room woke up one after another. When Fan Junyang woke up, his neck hurt because he was leaning against the wall. He touched his neck, and found that the red rope around his neck was gone. Fan Junyang hurriedly touched his chest, but he didn't feel any stone. His face suddenly changed and became incomparably pale. Have you seen what I have? It's a stone. It's a protective amulet that I've been carrying with me since I was a child. Fan Junyang looked around anxiously. Ningxu glanced at the uncle and didn't say anything. Was the uncle going to keep this thing for himself? What is it? 795 asked. It's a stone strung with a red rope. This stone is my amulet. Fan Junyang anxiously asked. Did you see it? 795 shook her head. Wang Jie frowned and said, You can ask her. She has been awake all this time. Wang Jie pointed at Ningxu. Ningxu was speechless. Damn! How could he say that he liked her with this kind of action? Ningxu wanted to bang her head against the wall. She was just short of directly saying that she was the one who took it. Have you seen my things? Fan Junyang Ningxu asked. Ningxu shook her head. I haven't seen it. What should I do? Fan Junyang's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. Ningxu asked, Is this very important? Very important. Ningxu secretly glanced at the uncle. The uncle's face was calm, and he didn't have a guilty conscience at all. His skin was much thicker than hers. Fan Junyang was extremely terrified and he looked very anxious. Why are you not sleeping in the middle of the night? Can't you let me sleep? The old woman's voice came from the next room. Old woman, my important thing is missing. I'm looking for it now. Fan Junyang raised his voice, waking up many people who were sleeping soundly. There was no movement in the next room, but after a while, the old woman and Lan came out dressed and asked, What's missing? My pendant is missing. The pendant on my neck is missing. Fan Junyang said. The old woman frowned tightly. Lan's pinhole pupils shrank and looked even smaller. She said, It must still be in this room. Look carefully. Yes, look carefully. It must be in this room. Don't blame it on us if it falls, the old woman said quickly. Ningxu's eyes flashed and said, Lan's neck is also red. See if the red rope on Lan's neck is yours. Lan immediately touched her neck and said, This is the amulet that Grandma asked for in the temple for me. It's not a stone. Ningxu narrowed her eyes. How do you know it's a stone? I heard you say it's a stone. Lan said, When I woke up, I heard someone say that the stone on the red rope was missing. This is the amulet I asked for my granddaughter, the old woman said. Fan Junyang's eyes flashed and he said to Lan, Can you take the red rope off your neck and show it to me? Lan's expression didn't change. Her eyes were empty. She said, This is mine. I didn't pick up your thing. Lan's thing was asked for by me in the temple. It's not yours at all. You want my granddaughter to take it out. You eat and live in my house, and now you want my granddaughter's thing. The old woman sat on the ground trembling. She slapped the ground with her hands and cried. When Ningxu saw this, he leaned close to the uncle and said, Something's wrong. The uncle pressed the back of the scalpel against Ningxu's forehead. Stay away from me. Ningxu curled his lips. Why couldn't Lan's thing be taken out? If it was really an amulet, there was nothing wrong with taking it out. She probably had the same thing as Fan Junyang. In other words, Lan might have a spirit stone that could absorb souls. Old woman, I'm just saying. Please get up, Fan Junyang said helplessly. The old woman stood up with her walking stick and said hatefully, Don't bully us. You're bullying my granddaughter because she can't see. Lan, go in with Grandma. The old woman took Lan's hand and went in. Fan Junyang fidgeted with his hair. Teacher, I think we should use force to break the trick, Lu Shanshan said. We're too passive. The uncle spun the scalpel in his hand. It should be soon. Ningxu blinked. Did the uncle know who the murderer was? Fan Junyang didn't find his pendant. He was very irritated, but more than that, he felt a kind of fear and uneasiness. I want to go upstairs and look for it, Fan Junyang said to the uncle. Are you sure you want to go up and look for it yourself? The uncle said. I want to ask a few people to go with me. Can I, teacher? Fan Junyang said to the uncle. Yes, it's up to you. Thank you, teacher. Fan Junyang hurriedly thanked him, and asked a few boys to go upstairs with him to look for the pendant. Wang Jie took the initiative and said, "I'll go with you." Fan Junyang thought of this person who hit him before, and felt a knot in his heart. He directly refused. "No, the few of us are enough." Wang Jie pursed his lips and didn't insist on going. Chapter 855. Ningxu looked at Wang Jie. Why did this guy suddenly become so active? Anyway, he did not have any good intentions. Before, he did not have any sense of existence. He was just an extra who would die soon. But now he had such a strong sense of existence. Anyway, Ningxu had an unspeakable hostility and disgust towards this Wang Jie. Ningxu even wanted to cut open his skin to see who was inside. Ningxu had a quite horrifying idea in his heart. He felt that this was Zhang Jiasen, but Zhang Jiasen had been killed by the uncle. If he could still jump, Ningxu would be convinced. Wang Jie saw Ningxu staring at him, and also showed a gentle smile to Ningxu. Ningxu suddenly had goosebumps all over his body. He immediately looked away, and saw that Lu Man at the foot of the wall had disappeared. "Where is she?" Ningxu could not help but ask 795. "I saw the old lady making a scene and did not pay attention." 795 said and stood up. "I will go with you to find her." "I will go too," Wang Jie said. Ningxu took the flashlight out of the central room and looked around. He went to the backyard and swept the flashlight everywhere. He saw Lu Man sitting on something like a rocking wooden horse. Lu Man was tied up. In order to prevent her from falling from the wooden horse, the rope was tied to the branch above her head, and the other end was tied to the wooden horse. This was a pulley device. The wooden horse shook. Lu Man could not fall from the wooden horse. Lu Man was not wearing pants. Ningxu swept the flashlight and saw blood flowing down the snow-white leg. Ningxu ran over. Lu Man was dying. Ningxu had a feeling of nausea. It was simply too cruel. Riding a wooden donkey was not a toy, but a very cruel torture for women. A wooden stick with a length of more than a foot and a diameter of 1 inch was protruding from the saddle. The tortured woman sat on it. As the wooden horse shook, the hard wooden stick would smash the woman's uterus and internal organs. This was the ancient feudal society's punishment for women who committed adultery. And Lu Man was pregnant. This is obviously a trial, punishing Lu Man as a criminal. 795 said. Lu Man was raped and pregnant. She was a disloyal woman. Not only punished Lu Man, but also the man who raped Lu Man was sawed. Ningxu sneered. She didn't know where this cold-blooded murderer was hiding, but he thought that she was a messenger of justice. "Hurry up and get her down," Ningxu said. 795 broke the rope and Wang Jie and helped Lu Man down. "She can't live," 795 said. "The blood can't be stopped at all." Blood gushed out from below. After a while, there was a pool of blood. She was bleeding profusely. Lu Man's face became more and more green. She grabbed Ningxu's trousers. "Help me." Ningxu didn't say anything. Lu Man's hands were stained with 2 lives. Lu Man gradually stopped breathing. She was still bleeding below. There was a strong smell of blood. "There are too many murderers," Ningxu said. "How did she get to the backyard?" "She would tell us when she went to the toilet," 795 said. "It should be a trap." People died quite frequently. If it was a murderer, how could he commit the crime so quickly? It must be a partnership. Pan Chun and Lin Xia didn't see the bodies. Maybe they were hiding around and spying on them. 795 buried the bodies with snow. "Let's go back." Ningxu put away the rope. It was a tool. It might be useful. Back in the central room, Ningxu told the uncle about Lu Man. Then he stood aside and leaned against the wall. Fan Junyang, who went upstairs to look for something, came down. His face was very pale. Obviously, he didn't find anything. This thing was in the hands of the perverted school doctor. How could he find anything? So many things had happened. Another person died at night. Now the sky was getting brighter. It was dawn. Ningxu felt his eyes were sore. He didn't rest for the whole night and didn't practice. His body was very uncomfortable. The old woman and Lan came out of the house and said, "Today is the last time we will keep you. You can leave after breakfast." Lan didn't ask her grandmother to keep them this time. "Okay, let's leave here," Fan Junyang said. "President, how do we go?" "We took the bus before we came. But now the snow is so thick that we can't even drive. And it's easy to get lost in this weather. We are not familiar with this place at all." Everyone was talking. They definitely wanted to leave, but they might not be able to survive if they walked out. There was a cliff between advancing and retreating. People died one after another. They were familiar classmates. The fear and horror was indescribable. They felt that they would go crazy at any time. "Teacher, let's go. If we stay here, something will happen to us sooner or later," Fan Junyang said. The uncle nodded. "Okay, then let's go." "How do we go?" "One step at a time." "How long do we have to walk?" "Even if we have to leave this place." Fan Junyang's attitude was very firm. "Okay." The uncle didn't object. The old woman had enough food this time. It was estimated that everyone could eat 3 steamed buns. "After you leave, don't come back." Considering that there would be no food in the future, everyone took 3 or 4 steamed buns and put them away. They didn't need to bring water. If they were thirsty, they could just eat 2 mouthfuls of snow. There was nothing much, but there was a lot of snow. Ningxu put away the steamed buns. Although there were fasting pills, the more food, the better. "Teacher, are we really leaving?" Uncle Ningxu asked. If they left here, how could they complete the mission? "It's good to go out for a walk," the uncle said. Ningxu was speechless. Everyone packed their luggage and stood in the courtyard. The uncle stood in front in a black trench coat. Everywhere was white. He was the only one in black. It was too eye-catching. The murderer should be looking for him first. The old woman quickly waved her hand. "Hurry up and leave. Go, 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 go. And this courtyard is full of corpses. Take them away too. Take them away." The old woman urged. "How can we take the corpses away in this situation?" Fan Junyang said. He glanced at Lan, who was leaning against the door, and turned to leave. The group of people stepped on the thick snow and left the courtyard. Ningxu felt that it was really difficult to walk. It was up to his calves. Why didn't the government do anything in such a serious snow disaster? They should at least ensure a path and shovel the snow. It felt like they were isolated from the world. Ningxu walked in deep and shallow steps. He saw the school doctor walking in front of him in the snow. The snow only reached his calves. This was fucking illogical. He was tall and not light. How could he not sink deep? Was he a soul or a body? He felt that he had a body. He had flesh and blood. But mission enforcers had souls. Perhaps when they were strong enough, they had a body. He was jealous. It was especially difficult to walk in the snow. He was panting, but he didn't walk far. Ningxu couldn't understand why the uncle brought them away. Were they not going to complete the mission? Chapter 856. Ningxu pulled his suitcase and looked at the school doctor walking in front of him. How long would he have to walk? When would he be able to leave? Looking at the endless expanse of whiteness around him, he felt despair just by looking at it. Especially after staying in the snow for a long time. It was easy to develop snow blindness, and one would lose their sight. Ningxu had cultivated a peerless martial art before, so his physique was still okay. He could barely walk, but the others couldn't. They couldn't pull their legs out of the snow for a long time, and it was especially strenuous to walk. "Teacher, can we rest for a while?" "I'm too tired," Fan Junyang said. The club members were all complaining. The uncle touched the jumping stone in his pocket and said indifferently, "We've only walked for a short while, and you're already tired. We haven't even walked a mile. Let's rest for a while before we continue." "Teacher, we really can't walk anymore." Lu Shanshan hammered her leg. "Teacher, I beg you." "Okay." The uncle nodded. "Rest here for now. We'll continue later." Lu Shanshan suddenly smiled and sat directly on the suitcase. Ningxu let out a long sigh of relief. She finally stopped. Everyone sat down moaning and panting. The sky was already dark, and it looked like it was going to snow again. Fan Junyang raised his head and looked at the sky. His face was full of worry, and he couldn't help but look at the uncle. The uncle said, "I'll go take a look around. You guys wait here." "Teacher, where are you going?" Lu Shanshan quickly stood up and said, "I'll go with you." Ningxu hammered his leg. He looked at Lu Shanshan, who was so tired that her face was pale. He was speechless that she still wanted to run with him. "No, I'll be back soon. But it's going to snow soon," Lu Shanshan said. As Lu Shanshan spoke, a whistling cold wind blew, mixed with snowflakes. "I told you to wait here." The uncle turned and left. The cold wind rolled up the corners of his clothes, and he gradually disappeared into the wind and snow. The uncle stepped on the snowy ground, holding the red rope in his hand. The stone released a clear cry, jumping about. A hand emerged from the snow, and the body was already covered by the wind and snow. In the snowstorm, a transparent soul was desperately grabbing snow to eat, looking extremely hungry. This was Lin Xia, who had run away earlier. He had died in the snow. Under the ravaging of the wind and snow, this spirit soul child appeared even fainter, as if it was about to dissipate. Seeing the soul, the stone jumped twice and sucked the transparent soul away. The uncle put the stone in his pocket and turned to leave. When the uncle returned, everyone looked at him as if they had seen their savior. Fan Junyang hurriedly said to the uncle, "Teacher, what should we do now? The snow is getting heavier. We will freeze to death in the snow. What do you want to do?" "You're the one who wanted to come out, and now you don't have any ideas?" the uncle said indifferently as he patted the snow off his shoulder. "Let's find another place to stay. The snow is getting heavier," Fan Junyang said. "But there aren't many people around." Lu Shanshan looked around and couldn't help rubbing her eyes. The wind was getting stronger and stronger, and some people's lips were purple from the cold. It didn't look good. Ningxu felt as if the cold wind was blowing into his bones. It was really cold to the bone. She had cultivated a peerless martial art, but even she couldn't bear it, let alone the others. "It's really cold." Lu Shanshan couldn't help but rub her arms. She looked at the uncle and said, "If the snow doesn't stop, we won't be able to survive the night." 795 came to Ningxu's side and said, "Look at Lu Shanshan's behavior. She must want boss to take off his clothes and put them on her." Ningxu looked at 795 from the corner of his eyes. "You're too petty. Why are you treating a woman like this? Take out your masculinity. Besides, even if you put a shirt on a woman, it's a gentleman's performance." "Tsk tisk. 795 sneered. "Do you know who she is? Is she from ancient times?" Ningxu asked. Lu Shanshan was the name of her body. Her number was 496. "Forget it. Modern people think that wearing ancient clothes can show off," 795 said. "Why bother with a woman?" Ningxu said indifferently. 795 pursed his lips. "We have to come back now." Sure enough, Fan Junyang struggled for a while and said to the uncle, "Let's go back." "Okay then," the uncle said indifferently and turned to walk back. Everyone was speechless. Were they going back now? "I'd rather freeze to death than go back. I'll definitely die if I go back." Some people objected. When they objected, they hugged their arms and shivered. "If you want to stay, stay. If you want to go back, go back," Fan Junyang said impatiently. "You brought us to this godforsaken place. So many people died, and you still have this attitude. Fan Junyang, you bastard." Some people were very dissatisfied with Fan Junyang's attitude. Fan Junyang fidgeted with his hair. "Then what do you want? Anyway, things are like this. If you want to go back with me, go back." Ningxu raised his hand and said, "I want to go back." A few people also said that they wanted to go back. Everyone had a herd mentality. Seeing so many people wanting to go back, even those who didn't want to go back were shaken. Now they had to endure the cold wind and trudge back to where they came from. Ningxu felt like she was drunk. What she was doing was completely useless, okay? The journey back was not far. When they returned to the old woman's house, the sky was already dark. "Why did you come back? Didn't you leave already?" The old woman opened the door and saw a group of people. She immediately said impatiently, "Why did you come back? We really can't leave in this weather. We can only come back. Please give us a place to shelter us from the wind and rain, Fan Junyang said sincerely. Now it sounds nice. Before, you wanted to steal my granddaughter's things. Were you planning to kill us? The old woman said warily. There was no such thing at all. Fan Junyang said. I just wanted to see the thing on Lan's neck. I never thought of taking Lan's things for myself. I don't believe you. The old woman still said warily. Grandma, let them live in the woodshed. Lan said expressionlessly. Her eyes were straight and couldn't focus. This woodshed was called a room, but it was just a shed. The wind was leaking from all sides. It couldn't be sheltered from the wind and snow. Everyone felt very irritated. After going back and forth for a while, they could only live in a leaky shed. It was much worse than before. We'll live in the main room. Just give us a place to stand. Fan Junyang negotiated with the old woman. In the end, Fan Junyang began to threaten the old woman. Only then did the old woman reluctantly agree to let them stay. Chapter 857. Ningxu felt that the current Fan Junyang was very impatient and uneasy, so much so that he could threaten people. Fan Junyang was not like this in the past. He was like a cornered dog jumping over a wall. Everyone was so cold that their snot was running down. They drank the hot water and their bodies warmed up a little. Now that they were asked to leave again, they would not leave no matter what. After going around in circles, they still came back here. They just did not know what would happen next. Ningxu was more confused. Was the uncle such a boring person? Did he not do anything but take everyone for a walk? Ningxu thought in his heart. He was really tired of this kind of non-stop killing game. He might as well take the initiative to attack. Anyway, Ningxu could not figure out who the murderer was. There were a few suspects, but he felt that everyone was the murderer. Ningxu looked at Lan's neck. What was that thing hanging on the red rope? There was no dinner. The old woman did not prepare food for everyone. Anyway, they had fallen out. It was good enough to have a sip of hot water. Ningxu took out the black steamed bun from this morning. The steamed bun was hard and not delicious. Ningxu chewed slowly. Everyone was sitting or standing in the central room. Although it was still cold, it was much more comfortable than in the ice and snow. Unexpectedly, no one complained. Ningxu sat cross-legged at the foot of the wall. He even wondered if Lan was really blind or wearing contact lenses. Ningxu closed his eyes to cultivate. The central room was quiet. There was only the sound of breathing. Ningxu didn't know how long she had been cultivating when she heard the faint sound of footsteps. She opened her eyes and saw that Fan Junyang and Wang Jie were gone. Even the uncle lying on the recliner was gone. Where did they go? Ningxu tiptoed out of the central room and looked around for the missing people. Finally, he found two shadows in the backyard. Ningxu carefully hid and pricked up his ears to listen to what the two people were talking about. He faintly heard, "How dare you commit a crime? I don't care so much. Give me the thing. Fan Junyang, you are just a small outer sect disciple. How dare you talk to me?" Listening carefully, this voice sounded like Lan's. "Without that thing, I'll die." As the two of them spoke, they actually started to tug at each other. While they were tugging, Fan Junyang actually took out a knife. The knife actually reflected a snow-white light under the illumination of the snow. Then there was the sound of a knife piercing flesh. Lan couldn't believe it. "You actually dared to attack me." Fan Junyang pulled the thing off Lan's neck. Lan clutched her chest and collapsed. Fan Junyang put away the pendant. When he turned around, a sharpened wooden stick pierced his heart. The relieved expression on Fan Junyang's face froze. He stared blankly at the person in front of him, who had fallen onto the snow like Lan. Ningxu was speechless. What was going on? Ningxu squinted his eyes, trying to see who killed Fan Junyang. The black shadow bent down and picked up the pendant in Fan Junyang's hand. "Give it to me." The uncle's voice was light. "Ningxu, how many people were hiding here?" The uncle raised his gun. Wang Jie raised his hand and said calmly, "Even if you're a first-generation mission enforcer, this thing is mine." A first-generation mission enforcer wouldn't steal something from a beginner mission enforcer like me, right? The uncle sneered. What right do you have to bargain with me? Wang Jie's face was cold. He didn't speak for a long time, but he didn't give the pendant to the uncle. Ningxu picked his ear. Wang Jie was a beginner mission enforcer. He remembered that only Zhang Jiasen was a beginner mission enforcer. Damn, Zhang Jiasen changed his appearance? What the hell? How could this be possible? Why didn't Mei Ziqing come back? Why did he change his appearance? Why did he kill himself while he was scheming? Was it because of the spirit stone? What was the use of the spirit stone? Feeling like he didn't know anything, Ningxu asked 2333 in his mind. What the hell is that stupid stone? If it was a priceless treasure, she had to get one. This mission had cost her an upgraded version of the amulet. Her heart was bleeding. 2333, where the hell did you go? Ningxu called out for a long time, but 2333 didn't respond. What's wrong with him? Could it be that something went wrong? Seeing that 2333 didn't respond, Ningxu gave up. Anyway, 2333 was just a useless piece of trash who only knew how to make sarcastic remarks. Ningxu quietly stared at the uncle and Wang Jie. Snatching food from the tiger's mouth was just a thought in his mind. There was someone who could destroy space. Trying to snatch food from the tiger's mouth was like trying to hit a rock with an egg. Ningxu wanted to roll his eyes when he saw Zhang Jiasen. Damn, why didn't this guy die? He caused the death of Miao Miao Miao's family. He was living a superior life. She went to counterattack. In the end, he became a mission enforcer. Wang Jie, who was being held at gunpoint by the uncle, had no choice but to give the pendant to the uncle. The uncle directly put it in his pocket. He didn't kill Zhang Jiasen. He turned around and left. Ningxu thought that Zhang Jiasen would fight with the uncle. In the end, Zhang Jiasen didn't fight back and just admitted defeat. Ningxu ran back to the central room and sat cross-legged at the foot of the wall, pretending to cultivate. When the uncle came in, Ningxu opened her eyes slightly and looked at him. The uncle glanced at Ningxu and lay on the recliner. When Zhang Jiasen came back, her face was very ugly. Seeing that you're not well, I'm happy. If you're well, that would be great. Although she didn't get that thing, and Zhang Jiasen worked for nothing, Ningxu was in a good mood. Zhang Jiasen sat next to Ningxu. Ningxu smelled the smell of blood on him. She opened her eyes and moved to the side. Zhang Jiasen didn't care about Ningxu's move. She stared at the uncle and rubbed her fingers. Ningxu was very bad. She hoped that Zhang Jiasen would fight with the uncle and be killed again. But Zhang Jiasen didn't do anything. Ningxu expected that Zhang Jiasen was a person who could endure. Now 2 more people were dead. Lan and Fan Junyang were dead. The 2 most suspicious people were dead, but these 2 people were related to these murders. Fan Junyang wanted to steal Lan's jade pendant, but he was killed by Zhang Jiasen. Ningxu's vigilance towards Zhang Jiasen was raised to the highest point. He killed people who had no grievances with him without mercy. He had such a grudge against him that he wanted to kill him when he had the chance. 2333, are you there? Ningxu called out to 2333 in her heart. Lalala was as stubborn as a rock. Ningxu let out a long breath and woke up 795,795. She rubbed her eyes and asked, "What's wrong? What do you think that treasure is for?" Ningxu asked. 795 looked puzzled. "What treasure?" Ningxu smiled. "Go back to sleep." "What treasure? You have to tell me. We're sleeping on the same bed. If there's anything good, we'll share it equally." 795 said. Chapter 858. Ningxu shook his head. "We've never slept on the same bed." "That's not the point. The point is that we need to earn some extra money for this mission," 795 said. Ningxu didn't know if 795 was pretending or not, but Ningxu didn't dare to look down on anyone. Moreover, 795 was a high-level mission enforcer. Ningxu didn't believe that he didn't have some skills. How many missions did one have to complete to become a high-level mission enforcer? Ningxu didn't say anything. He would see if he could pick up some scraps. Ningxu didn't dare to snatch the things that were in the uncle's hands. He was definitely tired of living. At this moment, Zhang Jiasen turned around and said to Ningxu and 795, "Do you want to work together?" "No need." Ningxu rejected directly. Zhang Jiasen looked at Ningxu. "Are you still angry?" "Oh, why can't I be angry?" Ningxu said sarcastically. Zhang Jiasen was silent for a moment and said, "Without forgiveness, one's life will be controlled by endless hatred and revenge. I really didn't mean to hurt you." Ningxu said, "Speak human language." Zhang Jiasen said, "Please forgive me." Ningxu, "Oh, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, slash," slamming the table and laughing hysterically. Ningxu really had to hand it to Zhang Jiasen. How thick was his skin to say such shameless words? Seriously, forgive? Why don't you go to heaven? I'll kill you and say something on your grave. If you don't forgive me, one's life will be controlled by endless hatred and revenge. You have to forgive me. He would probably be so angry that his soul would scatter. Ningxu looked at Zhang Jiasen expressionlessly. "I really have to hand it to you." Zhang Jiasen didn't say anything. Perhaps he didn't care about Ningxu's forgiveness at all. He was just casually saying a few words. The next morning, the old woman realized that her granddaughter was missing. She was so scared that her face turned purple. "Where's my Lan?" "Lan." The old woman used her walking stick to look for her granddaughter. She found Lan's body in the backyard, which was almost covered with snow. She immediately threw herself on the body and cried, it's you who killed my Lan." The old woman pointed at the crowd with a trembling finger. "Give me back my Lan." Zhang Jiasen said coldly, "Is she really your granddaughter?" "She killed Fan Junyang," Zhang Jiasen said. Ningxu, "Nonsense, you were the one who killed Fan Junyang." The ability to talk nonsense with a straight face was also rare in the world. Zhang Jiasen was really a shameless bitch. Impossible, Lan wouldn't kill anyone. She couldn't see at all. We lived together for more than 10 years. Lan is my granddaughter. How can she not be my granddaughter? The old woman held Lan's body and wailed. When she saw Fan Junyang's body not far away, she hit Fan Junyang's body with her walking stick. She hit Fan Junyang's head so hard that Fan Junyang's face was unrecognizable. Even his brain was smashed out. Everyone present felt a little disgusted and looked away. "Who are you? How dare you treat my granddaughter like this, you despicable thing?" The old woman looked very sad and frightened. Ningxu narrowed his eyes and turned to quietly go to the central room. He was going to sneak into the old woman's room to see if there were any hidden mechanisms. Anyway, the matter was relatively clear. There were several murderers and accomplices. Fan Junyang and Lan were definitely acquaintances. "I'll go with you." 795 saw Ningxu sneaking and immediately said to Ningxu. Ningxu nodded and entered the room next to the central room. The room was very dark, a little dark and damp, and there was a musty smell. There was a small window curtain that had not been opened. Ningxu opened the curtain and light shone into the room. "Hurry up and see if there are any hidden mechanisms," Ningxu said to 795. He fumbled in the bedside wardrobe and the shabby painting hanging on the wall. "They are in the yard. Let's go out quickly," 795 said. Ningxu also heard the footsteps. He went out of the room and closed the door. The old woman's turbid eyes were filled with tears. She shouted, "Get out of my house now. You killed my Lan. Lan was just a child who couldn't see. Why did you do this to her? Leave my house, get out." Zhang Jiasen sneered. "We won't leave. Now we can't leave at all. You are shameless." The old woman trembled with anger. "Now you want to take over the magpie's nest? This is my home." Zhang Jiasen walked to the old woman and opened the old woman's collar. He saw a black rope and directly pulled the pendant on the old woman's body. Ningxu was a little surprised. The old woman actually had this kind of stone on her body. "Why did you take my things? Give it back to me." The old woman reached out to take back the pendant, but the old woman was no match for the young and powerful Zhang Jiasen. Zhang Jiasen kicked the old woman in the chest, and the old woman fell to the ground. The old woman covered her chest for a long time and couldn't get up. Her face was pale. "Ouch, I'm going to kill someone." Ouch! The old woman covered her chest and moaned. Wang Jieyu. The others looked at Zhang Jiasen. Apparently, they didn't expect Zhang Jiasen to be so ruthless. Moreover, the other party was an old woman. Zhang Jiasen put the spirit stone in his pocket and glanced at the uncle. The uncle's face was indifferent. No one could see his emotions. This grandfather and grandson are the murderers, Zhang Jiasen said. That's impossible. Why do they want to kill us? They are an old woman and a blind man. It's not easy to kill us. Isn't the blind man dead now? Zhang Jiasen didn't explain too much. His hand reached into his pocket and tightly held the pendant stone. Ningxu saw that Zhang Jiasen cared so much about this stone. His heart was scratching. What was so good about this thing that Zhang Jiasen wanted to get it by hook or by crook? Why don't we stun that guy? Ningxu said to 795 while hammering his chest. 795 said, Are you sure we are doing the task now? What if we get obliterated? Then forget it. Ningxu stared at Zhang Jiasen's pocket. This thing fell into Zhang Jiasen's hands. He was really unwilling. The old woman stood up with difficulty with her walking stick. Her back was hunched, and her eyes swept over the crowd. You won't have a good ending. Then, she went to the room and closed the door. Which room is the situation developing now? Damn. It was clearly a murder case. Now it has become a robbery? The cold wind whistled. Everyone entered the central room. Teacher, what should we do now? Lu Shanshan asked the uncle. Is it not done yet? Lu Shanshan wanted to ask how the task was completed. Ningxu stared at Zhang Jiasen. Zhang Jiasen stood far away from the uncle. Obviously, he was afraid that the uncle would rob him again. Ningxu thought for a moment. Then he took a shovel from the yard and began to dig up the soil. Chapter 859. After removing a layer of soil on the ground, the wooden floor was exposed. 795 knocked on the wooden board and made a hollow sound. It's empty, 795 said. I guess there's a passage and a building below. 795 took the shovel from Ningxu's hand and began to dig at the solid soil on the ground. But after a while, the ground of the central room was turned over, revealing a floor that was pieced together by wooden planks. Ningxu crawled on the ground and tried to see through the cracks to see what was below. All he saw was darkness. He couldn't see anything at all. Help me see if there are any traps around here, 795 said to the others. The uncle sat steadily on the recliner and didn't move. Lu Shanshan whispered to the uncle. Look at her, 795 said to Ningxu. Ningxu was speechless. What did Lu Shanshan do to 795? Ningxu's nose twitched. Do you smell blood? 795 kicked the door open. Ningxu looked inside and saw the old lady kneeling on the ground. Her eyes were dark and hollow. Her eyeballs were dug out. There was still some flesh and blood stuck on her face. Ningxu looked away after a glance. This was the bloodiest murder that Ningxu had ever seen. Everyone's death was particularly miserable. There's a passage in this room. We didn't see anyone enter this room from next door. 795 looked around. Ningxu touched the wall and felt that there was a cobweb-like passage under the house that could lead to anywhere in the house. No one knew. Ningxu, Zhang Jiasen, and the other two searched around the house. Finally, 795 touched a bump under the bed. With a press, a passage appeared under the bed. Here. 795 climbed out from under the bed. Move the bed away. The boys worked together to move the bed away. They looked at the dark hole. It was like the mouth of a monster that wanted to swallow everyone. Teacher, do we go down now? 795 asked the uncle. 795 dared to talk to the uncle, but Zhang Jiasen stood far away. He tried to reduce his presence. Go in. The uncle nodded. Wait. Ningxu raised his hand. You don't want to go? The uncle raised his eyebrows. The uncle hurried to the yard, took a few sharpened sticks from the woodshed, and gave one to 795. Thank you. 795 weighed the wooden stick and thanked Ningxu. Ningxu wanted to give one to the uncle, but he remembered that he had a gun on his waist. Even in the ancient world, guns were allowed, so he didn't give it to him. Give me one, Lu Shanshan said. Ningxu handed one to Lu Shanshan. Zhang Jiasun said, let's go. There are other people in this room. There were still more than 10 people. That's right, mentor. What should we do if you leave? What if the murderer comes again? How about we go together? I'm scared here. The uncle pursed his lips. We might die if we go down. Ningxu felt that it wasn't safe in the house. The passage below could allow the murderer to appear at any time and kill these weak college students. However, the situation below was unknown. They didn't know anything. The future was uncertain. They didn't know what dangers there were. Mentor, let's go with you, everyone said. Just stay here. There's no need to follow me. The uncle said indifferently. It's dangerous down there. No, mentor, we must go with you. Whatever, the uncle said indifferently. Everyone followed Ningxu's example and went to the courtyard, each of them taking a wooden stick. The uncle went down first, and Lu Shanshan followed closely behind. Be careful, Zhang Jiasun said to Ningxu and went down the stairs. Ningxu, acting like he cared about her. 795 turned on the flashlight on his phone and went down. Ningxu held the wooden stick tightly in his hand and walked into the cave with the flashlight. He said to the nervous members, hurry up and follow me. Everyone went down the passage one after another. The whole house was quiet. The snow was falling heavily, and the wind was howling. It seemed like the house was going to be submerged. Ningxu held the flashlight in his mouth. He held 795's clothes in one hand, and the wooden stick in the other. The stairs were very complicated. There were many passages, and they didn't know where these passages led. It was easy to get lost. There were all kinds of traps in the passages. If they weren't careful, they would lose their lives. As they walked, the people behind them disappeared. They fell into a trap. They didn't know if it was an illusion, but they felt like someone was spying on them. The atmosphere in the group was very gloomy. There were even soft sobs. Ningxu's palms were sweating. He said to 795, I feel like someone is playing with us. As soon as Ningxu's voice fell, he heard a poof. Ningxu looked back and saw an iron stick suddenly appear on the ground. The iron stick was sharpened. When a boy just took a step, this thing appeared from the bottom of his feet. It went straight through his head from below. The iron stick came out of his mouth. Some people couldn't bear it. They held their heads and screamed at the top of their lungs. The uncle walking in front pulled out the gun at his waist. He narrowed his eyes and shot at the wall. Then he quickened his pace. The people behind had to jog, but there were no casualties for the time being. It felt like there was an inescapable net around them. There were surveillance cameras everywhere. The uncle's gun was always in his hand. He would shoot every few steps, but there were no bullets. Ningxu released her spiritual power, but her spiritual power was not strong. She could only look at the situation around her and see if there were any mechanisms or traps underground. Ningxu looked at the uncle walking in front. He seemed to have a direction. He went straight in one direction without stopping. Zhang Jiasun touched the jumping stone in his pocket. He pursed his lips tightly and looked at the uncle walking in front. Ningxu didn't know how long she had been walking. She didn't know how many detours she had taken. The road in front of her was getting wider and wider. There was a harsh light. Ningxu narrowed her eyes and looked at the entrance of the cave after adapting to the light. He saw a magnificent building that was incomparably gorgeous. There were strange patterns on the big pillars, and in the middle of it was a majestic square altar. There was a pillar on the altar, and on the pillar was a perfectly round crystal. This stone was multicolored and exceptionally dazzling. This is good stuff, good stuff. 795's breathing was very rapid. He couldn't help but move 2 steps forward. Zhang Jiasun touched the stone in his pocket that was jumping more and more. His eyes were very deep. Ningxu asked 795, what is this? 795 whispered. There are countless planes and 3,000 great Tao. There are always some things that jump out of the great Tao of heaven. They are not troubled by karma and can avoid the sins of karma. Get to the point? Rory said a lot. He didn't understand at all. Chapter 860. 795's face was red with excitement. We mission enforcers also have evil creatures, but with this thing, not only can it save lives, it can also avoid the sins of heaven. To be able to get this thing, the number of souls in the stone is equivalent to the number of lives you have. Even if you kill someone, you won't have any negative karma if you kill an innocent person. Ningxu was speechless. Damn, how could such a heaven-defying thing exist? If mission enforcers got it, they wouldn't have to be afraid of being erased. After all, there were souls in it that would replace the mission enforcers. Ningxu's heart was itching. Looking at the light of the stone, she felt that it was even more dazzling. She really wanted to get this thing. In the face of such a rare thing, the greed in her heart was infinitely magnified. Ningxu clenched her fists tightly. Her nails dug into her palms, causing pain. Ningxu calmed down and glanced at the indifferent uncle. She sighed in her heart. Her chances of getting this thing were quite slim. With this thing, mission enforcers could do almost anything. It felt realistic no matter how she thought about it. Clap, clap, clap. There was a burst of applause, and there were echoes. Everyone looked at the person clapping. They saw Panchen wearing a white priest's robe with wide sleeves. Coupled with his delicate and gentle face, he looked like a polite scholar from ancient times. Panchen, aren't you dead? Panchen said politely. Welcome to the Temple of God's Stone as a guest. Panchen, did you kill those people? A member couldn't help but ask. Panchen nodded. Not all of them were killed by me. Panchen lowered his head and counted his fingers. A few of them were killed by Fan Junyang. A few of them were killed by me. There were also some who took advantage of the chaos to kill them. The one riding the wooden horse was killed by this old woman. The saw was done by Lan. Panchen complained. Lan is really useless. She gave me a pair of sky eyes and died just like that. Ningxu was speechless. Those eyes were sky eyes. They were obviously cataracts of a dead fish, okay? Are you still human? We are all classmates. Why did you kill them? Someone shouted at Panchen angrily. Panchen asked, why can't I kill them? Don't you feel guilty? Of course not. Besides, I didn't kill all of them. I just provided some convenience, Panchen said with a shy look on his face. Seeing Panchen like this, everyone couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. He was talking about killing people as if it was as normal as eating. Since you're here, I have to give you a gift, Panchen said gently. As soon as he finished speaking, the stone on the pillar emitted a dazzling light. Ningxu suddenly felt as if her soul was about to leave her body. A powerful suction force was trying to suck her body out. Everyone hugged their heads and howled in pain. It was too painful to have their souls forcibly separated from their bodies. The uncle squinted his eyes and fired at the stone. The stone's light dimmed a little, and the power that wanted to pull the soul out of the body was gone. Panchen looked at the gun in the uncle's hand and asked with a frown, "What gun is that?" The uncle turned his arm and fired 2 shots at Panchen. Panchen's body moved twice and his figure dimmed a little. "Can your gun erase souls?" Panchen looked vigilant. Ningxu was speechless. What the hell was Panchen? Why couldn't he be killed? Was Panchen a soul? Ningxu asked 795. What is he? 795 felt terrible as she hammered her chest. Depressing. I don't know how many souls this guy has absorbed. He has already formed a soul. I thought I could get the stone by luck, but it already has its own consciousness. Ningxu was speechless. She had completely given up on this idea. Not to mention the uncle. This guy's soul was even stronger than hers. How could she get it? Instead, her soul was devoured by the other party. Ningxu clutched her chest like 795. Her heart was extremely stifled. Then why does it reincarnate again and again? Ningxu asked. It makes people experience death again and again. The more painful, the more hatred, the more fear. The 7 emotions and 6 desires are magnified infinitely. The power of the soul becomes stronger, 795 said. Zhang Jiasen stared at Panchen. His eyes narrowed as dark waves surged in his eyes. Everyone retreat, the uncle said calmly. Everyone immediately retreated. The uncle waved at Panchen. Come here obediently. Pan Chen took 2 steps back and looked at the gun in the uncle's hand warily. His handsome face was filled with doubt. Can you tell me what the gun in your hand is? The uncle was expressionless. You're really disobedient. He fired 2 more shots at Pan Chen. Pan Chen's soul dimmed a little. His expression became serious as he turned into a stream of light and entered the stone. The uncle fired at the stone. The stone shook slightly and the entire underground building started to shake. The stone emitted a strong suction force, wanting to suck everyone's souls into the stone. The uncle frowned. Stubborn resistance. The uncle pulled the bolt and turned his body slightly. His body and the gun formed a straight line, and he fired at the stone. Ningxu held his head and saw that the space was slightly distorted. A strong force hit the stone. The stone exploded with a bright light to resist this strong force. But the result was obvious. You guys can go. I won't make things difficult for you. Pan Chen's voice came from the stone. A light shot out from the stone and went towards the uncle's face. The middle-aged man dodged to the side and fired 2 more shots at the rock. Pan Chen showed his body and looked at the uncle. You're a soul too? We're the same. Why are you making things difficult for me? Pan Chen said unhappily. Ningxu looked at the uncle's windbreaker. Was he really a soul? He was no different from a real person. He clearly had a body. 795 sat on the ground. We're done. Let's just watch. Ningxu squatted beside 795 and whispered to him. Didn't you say that this stone was divided into mother and child stones? Ningxu raised his chin in Zhang Jiasan's direction. What's the use of child stones? 795 glanced at Zhang Jiasan. It has the same effect. But it's very difficult to condense consciousness. It's a heaven-defying ability, but it's impossible to give it heaven-defying wisdom. I don't know what kind of opportunity Pan Chen had, but he has consciousness. 795 hammered his chest. Damn it. The treasure is right in front of me, but I can't get it. Ningxu was even more upset than 795. He was upset that Zhang Jiasan had gotten this thing. He didn't know what would happen to Zhang Jiasan in the future. What was worse than not getting the treasure was that the enemy got it. Perhaps Ningxu's gaze was too intense. Zhang Jiasan turned and met Ningxu's gaze. Zhang Jiasan smirked at Ningxu. Ningxu pouted. What was there to be proud of? Getting it was one thing, keeping it was another. Chapter 861. Pan Chen and the uncle faced each other. Pan Chen realized that his method of attacking the soul was useless against the man in black. Instead, his own soul had lost a lot of soul power after being shot a few times. Facing the black muzzle, Pan Chen felt his heart palpitate. Even the heavenly Tao couldn't kill him. Pan Chen politely said to the uncle, "We can talk. This is the last shot. Do you believe that this shot will destroy your body?" The uncle said coldly, "It wasn't easy for you to form a consciousness. Since you don't know it, leaving you alive will be a disaster." Pan Chen furrowed her delicate eyebrows. "Why do we have to fight and kill?" The uncle fired a shot at Pan Chen's soul. The silent power destroyed Pan Chen's soul until it was transparent. Pan Chen raised his hand in shock. His hand was already transparent. Pan Chen immediately went back into his body and said, "I surrender." Ningxu was speechless. He thought that there would be a good fight. What a smart guy. Pan Chen flew toward the uncle. The uncle reached out and caught the stone. Ningxu's saliva flowed out. This was a good treasure. There was no karma involved in killing people, and it could even be killed in his place. The uncle put the stone away. "Give it to me," the uncle said to Zhang Jiasan indifferently. "Isn't this something that a mission enforcer like you should have?" Zhang Jiasan held the stone tightly and took 2 steps back. "I got it myself. I have the right to get it. Didn't you want it too? You even knew about it a long time ago. But you let them kill people to draw it out." Zhang Jiasan's expression was serious. The uncle said casually, "So what?" Zhang Jiasan's expression was gloomy. "Then what right do you have to take my things?" "I want to." "What right do you have to say that to me?" The uncle said indifferently. "Are you stupid?" They're just souls now. Who knows how many times they've died? Even their bodies are fake, Panchen said. Ningxu was a little surprised. The body she possessed was fake, but it had a temperature, a heartbeat and breathing. Was it a trick? Are first-generation mission enforcers allowed to steal from others? Before Zhang Jiasen could finish his sentence, the item in his hand flew out. This is something I gave to a few slaves. Do you want to become my slave? Panchen said. Can you help me kill people and find souls, and I'll give you eternal life? The uncle pressed his hand on the stone, and Panchen immediately stopped talking. The thumb-sized stone flew towards the uncle. The uncle caught the stone and said, How many stones did you scatter? Call them all back. Yes. Panchen's tone was dull. Zhang Jiasen's face turned green, extremely unsightly. When Ningxu saw that the thing that Zhang Jiasen had painstakingly planned was gone, he was overjoyed and couldn't help but want to stand up and applaud. Well done. However, with this kind of thing without any restraints, they would be unrestrained and unrestrained. Mission enforcers without any restraints would cause immeasurable damage to the plane. Without Panchen's support, the space began to collapse. Everyone felt their vision blur before they appeared in the central room. They felt a tremor under their feet. The Godstone Temple must have collapsed. Ningxu let out a long breath. This mission was finally completed. He had wasted an upgraded version of the amulet. However, now that he could hold his head high and see Zhang Jiasen fail, he felt that it was worth it. What happened to me? The bodies of the surviving members began to slowly turn into stone. In the end, they became human-shaped sculptures. Their souls floated out of the stone statues, and each of them became soul bodies. Ningxu also returned to his original appearance. The mission enforcers also recovered. Lu Shanshan was wearing an elegant ancient costume. She was extremely beautiful. Wow, your souls are not bad. If I had known, I would have swallowed you all first, Panchen said in a muffled voice. The uncle pointed his finger in the air. A black hole slowly appeared from his fingertip. As soon as the black hole appeared, the soul bodies rushed towards it. The black hole gradually shrank and finally disappeared. Ningxu had seen this kind of black hole when he was a Maoshan Taoist priest. What is that? Ningxu asked 795. The path to reincarnation. These people are already dead. Naturally, they will be reincarnated, 795 said. Ningxu. Damn. He casually summoned the path of reincarnation. Ningxu smiled. Stay away from the uncle in the future. Who knows, he might kick her into the path of reincarnation. Go back, the uncle said calmly. Ningxu suddenly felt dazed. When he opened his eyes, he was already in the virtual space's private room. Ningxu let out a long breath. He looked down and saw that his soul had dimmed a lot. Are you okay? Mei Ziqing asked Ningxu. Ningxu turned and saw Mei Ziqing. He asked in surprise, You've been waiting here? Yes, I had to wait for you guys to come back. The mission is only considered complete, Mei Ziqing said. Ningxu asked in confusion. Don't you have an upgraded version of the amulet? Why didn't you exchange for one? Mei Ziqing said helplessly. I've been stuck at the high-level mission enforcer level for a long time. Every bit of merit I use is a little less. I have to save it to level up. Ningxu nodded. Mei Ziqing said. Then I'll leave first. I have to see how much merit I have this time. But I died early, so I don't think I have much merit left. I still have to do this kind of mission. Looks like I still have to exchange for a few upgraded versions of the amulet. Sigh. Mei Ziqing's figure disappeared after he finished speaking. Ningxu said, 2333, I'm leaving too. Add my account. We'll work together again if there's a chance. Okay. After the mission enforcers left, only Zhang Jiasen, the uncle for 96, and Ningxu were left in the room. Zhang Jiasen's soul was extremely transparent, as if it was about to dissipate. It looked like he had paid a heavy price for possessing her twice. If she used a little item, she could turn Zhang Jiasen into ashes. Zhang Jiasen sensed Ningxu's malicious gaze. He glanced at her and disappeared. For 96 said to the uncle, Can you give me a small piece of that stone? The uncle said indifferently, No. For 96 was a little discouraged. Then can you let me take a look? I'll just take a look. I've never seen such a stone before. No. Can't I just take a look? Ningxu saw that 496 seemed to be acting coquettishly with the uncle. It was a little awkward. But the uncle's composure was really good. Even in the face of such a beauty, he still had a cold expression. For 96, who was rejected, looked a little unhappy. Looking at the indifferent first-generation mission enforcer, 496 was angry but full of fighting spirit. Ningxu felt that it was not suitable for him to stay here. He called out to 2333 in his heart. Return to the system space. Yes, 2333, who was lying like a corpse, finally responded. Ningxu felt dizzy and left the virtual space. Chapter 862. Back in the system space, Ningxu hurriedly sat on the carpet and began to cultivate. This time he had used up a lot of his soul energy. When his soul energy was sufficient, Ningxu stopped cultivating and asked 2333 coldly, "Where did you die? Why didn't you reply to my questions?" "I crashed. I was working on the data," 2333 said. "Didn't I get a system's luck and laws?" Ningxu was speechless. Her and 2333's 8 characters clashed. That was why they were not on the same beat. Ningxu was too lazy to say anything. He opened his status panel to see what he had gained. Number, 2333 Name, Ningxu Intermediate Mission Taker. Age, 27 points, 11. 15 million soul, 310 health points. 81 wisdom, 264 charm. 10 luck, 99 mental power, 170 faith. 24141000 combat power. 182 aptitude, 79 merit. 100453000 skills. 5th ring shooting technique, trash fighting technique, entry to ultimate martial arts, beginner poison technique, beginner business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skills, ghost hunter skills honorary titles, goddess of war, selfless ancestor items, calm aura, faith aura, amulet 5, upgraded amulet auras, mother of the world queen's blessing, model worker, Chun-Chi's blessing, leader aura grass blessing, best friend Miao Miao Miao's blessing, life-saving hand Zhu Sunyang's blessing, completed special mission. Received 3,000 merit points and 1,000 faith points. Ningxu rubbed his eyes. That's it. Just 3,000 merit points? No points, no attribute points. This mission was a scam. Ningxu opened the chat and asked Mei Ziqing, "How's the reward? Can I become a super mission taker?" Mei Ziqing. "Sigh, I'm still a little short. Merit points are really hard to come by. I still need to do some special missions. Special missions are hard to come by." Ningxu comforted Mei Ziqing. "Don't be too anxious. Take it slow." Mei Ziqing thought for a moment. "I'd better go and do some normal missions. I'm mentally tired. I'll think about it when I have a special mission." Ningxu chatted with Mei Ziqing for a while. Just as he was about to close the chat, he heard a notification. Ningxu clicked on it and saw that it was 795 requesting to speak to her. Ningxu clicked yes. 795 sent a message and asked, "How was the mission this time? What did you get?" "It's not ideal," Ningxu replied. 795 said, "Panchen isn't someone we can control. He didn't do anything, so naturally he didn't gain much." Ningxu sighed. It would have been better for him to do normal quests, earn 20 million points, and become an advanced quest taker. As for becoming an advanced quest taker, that was too far away. Ningxu was too lazy to even think about it. There was another ding. Someone wanted to talk to her. Ningxu opened it and saw that it was number 6457. This number was Zhang Jiasen. Ningxu rejected it without hesitation. She was too lazy to talk to Zhang Jiasen, and there was nothing to say. Anyway, Zhang Jiasen would take the opportunity to kill her. He was very scheming. He was saying nice things to her now, but the next time he had the chance, he would be merciless. Ningxu turned off the chatting system and took out the Peerless Martial Art secret book. She wondered how she could turn this book into a world. What did she need? She really wanted to have her own world. Ningxu closed the book. She remembered that the silver-haired man still owed her 3 questions. Should she ask him? The silver-haired man was quite knowledgeable. Ningxu took the book and said to 2333, "Let's go to the virtual space." Okay. Ningxu felt dizzy for a moment. She stood on the bluestone street and walked towards the consultation room with the Peerless Martial Arts Manual. Walking into the consultation room, Ningxu smelled an elegant aroma. She felt her mind clear, and the negative emotions in her heart slowly dissipated. Her heart was calm. Ningxu breathed in the aroma desperately. The silver-haired man came out from the inner room. When he saw Ningxu, his expression was indifferent. He never left the book, and his long silver hair was tied up. "What do you want to ask this time?" The silver-haired man sat down. His movements were elegant, gentlemanly. Ningxu put the book on the table and asked, "What do I need to form a world?" The silver-haired man raised his eyebrows. "You are only an intermediate quest taker, and you want to build a world? Build a world?" She remembered that 795 also said to build a world. Ningxu opened the book and said to the silver-haired man, "Take a look and see if you can form a world." The silver-haired man took the book and flipped through it page by page. He raised his eyebrows. Patterns formed by the power of faith can form a world, but it is more difficult. A world must have its own laws and power system to maintain the world's operation. It must have an environment that allows living beings to survive. Water, sunlight, earth, and soul all have their own origins. The 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth also have their own origins. These origins are what maintain the world. Ningxu straightened out the silver-haired man's words and asked, "Then do I need to obtain the elemental origins?" The silver-haired man closed the book and pushed it to Ningxu. "Yes, the origins aren't easy to obtain. They are usually derived from the world itself. With your current strength, it is too difficult to create a world with human power." Ningxu pursed his lips. Maybe he can obtain the origins. Ningxu asked, "What is building a world?" Mission enforcers are also a kind of cultivator. Usually, when you become a super mission enforcer, you will start to build your own world. Once you have your own independent world and become one with the world, you will not be easily erased. The silver-haired man said. Ningxu nodded. 795 said that 496 was a super mission enforcer who did not even know how to build a world. So that was what it was. The silver-haired man said, "You have already asked 2 questions. There is only 1 free question left." "What? Just 1 question?" Ningxu was speechless. "The first question is whether this book can form a world. The second question is what is building a world." The silver-haired man crossed his arms and said in a noble manner. Ningxu was speechless. Damn it, so black-hearted. Profiteer. Ningxu smelled the agarwood. The silver-haired man took his book and went into the room. He turned around and said to Ningxu, "This kind of incense is charged according to the time it is recorded." Ningxu took his book and ran out of the consultation room. He looked at the signboard at the door and really wanted to flip the table. Gentlemanly and elegant, but so treacherous in his bones. They were all old and cunning people. He wondered how long this man had been around. After coming out of the consultation room, Ningxu went to the restaurant and ordered something to eat. After eating a tableful of food, he was not full and did not gain weight. Awesome. After coming out of the restaurant, Ningxu planned to exchange for an upgraded version of the amulet. The last time he exchanged for one, he was erased. He had to exchange again. Chapter 863. The upgraded version of the amulet costs 100 merit points. Ningxu went to the shop where he had exchanged before. Previously, he had exchanged for 95 merit points. This time, Ningxu spent 190 merit points to exchange for 2 upgraded versions of the amulet. With 2 upgraded versions of the amulet, Ningxu felt a lot more at ease. After exchanging for the amulet, Ningxu said to 2333, "Let's go back to the system space." After returning to the system space, Ningxu took a book from the bookshelf and read it. After reading it, he took the sprinkler to water the flowers and tidied them up. He said to 2333, "Let's look at the next client." "Okay." 2333 said. A figure gradually appeared in the space. She was wearing coarse linen clothes and cloth shoes. Her hair was tied up with a wooden hairpin. Her face was sallow and tired. Her figure was thin and her cheekbones were high. At first glance, she looked like an overworked ancient peasant woman. Ningxu squinted his eyes and looked at her. He knew a little bit about fortune-telling. This woman clearly had a rich face. The woman's cloudy eyes looked around the space. The space was bright, the floor was smooth, the plants dripping with water, the fresh and lovely flowers, the bookshelf was full of books, and the beautiful sofa. The woman nervously pinched her white dress and took 2 steps back. Ningxu said, "Hello, are you going to counterattack?" "Yes, my name is Chen Ermei." Chen Ermei whispered, "Can you help me counterattack?" "Yes, what is your wish?" Ningxu asked. Chen Ermei looked a little timid. After a long silence, she said, "I want to take revenge on Bai Yiqiao. She ruined my life. I don't know why she did this to me. And my husband, he defiled me." Speaking of her husband, Chen Ermei looked frightened and scared. Ningxu decided to read the plot first before deciding whether to accept the quest. Chen Ermei didn't know why Bai Yiqiao was so against her. In fact, Bai Yiqiao was reborn. Bai Yiqiao's father was a scholar. He took the imperial examination all his life and didn't get to high school. However, being a scholar in the corner of the village was still very amazing. Furthermore, once one became an elementary scholar, one would not have to pay exorbitant taxes. Bai Yiqiao was born delicate and pretty. Because she didn't work, her skin was white and she wore beautiful clothes. She was particularly conspicuous among the village girls and women. Bai Yiqiao's grandfather was engaged when Bai Yiqiao was young. Her future husband was a man who hunted for a living. Bai Yiqiao was proud and arrogant. Naturally, she didn't like this man. She broke off her marriage and went to the town to be a concubine for the son of a big family. At that time, the world was in chaos. Fang Yong, who had his marriage annulled, wanted to join the rebel army. However, before he left, Fang Yong's mother arranged another marriage for him. The other party was Chen Ermei. Not long after they got married, Fang Yong joined the army. Relying on his agility and archery skills, Fang Yong stood out in the army and climbed up the ranks step by step. After the new emperor ascended the throne, Fang Yong was given the title of Marquis. As for Chen Ermei, because of her husband's honor as a wife, she became a titled madam. Bai Yiqiao, who became a concubine, was found wrong by the mistress of the house. She broke her legs and threw out of the house to beg for a living. When Fang Yong returned home, Bai Yiqiao saw Chen Ermei, who was not as good as her in every aspect, dressed in brocade clothes, wearing gold and silver, followed by several servant girls. Even the mistress of the house, who broke her legs, was in front of Chen Ermei. Fang Yong, who was wearing an official's uniform, Bai Yiqiao was stunned. She never knew that Fang Yong was so heroic. All this glory and her husband became someone else's. Chen Ermei was lucky to pick up the scraps. Bai Yiqiao crawled on the side of the road. Chen Ermei threw a few copper coins into her bowl. Bai Yiqiao was ashamed and insulted. She covered her face with her dirty and messy hair. Watching Chen Ermei and Fang Yong go farther and farther away, seeing Fang Yong's considerate care for Chen Ermei, Bai Yiqiao regretted it. In remorse, Bai Yiqiao froze to death on the street. When she woke up again, she was reborn back to the time when she broke off the marriage. The reborn Bai Yiqiao decided to turn over a new leaf, no longer loved vanity, and lived a down-to-earth life with Fang Yong. Ningxu, who had accepted the plot. Why was it reborn again? People with such character could be reborn. Those who were wronged and died, those who suffered great pain and died, had no chance to start over. Your mother, this Bai Yiqiao was a proper green tea bitch. The reason why she would live a down-to-earth life with Fang Yong was that she knew that Fang Yong would stand out sooner or later. Green tea bitch, green tea bitch. She fell under the skirt of a man. Bai Yiqiao had always been afraid of Chen Ermei, who had a husband and wife relationship with Fang Yong. Chen Ermiai's current situation was Bai Yiqiao's masterpiece. Bai Yiqiao was not a good person. As a concubine of a big family, her complicated backyard was full of struggles, and she had experienced all kinds of shady things. Ningxu looked at Chen Ermiai. It was hard to imagine that when Chen Ermiai died, she was only in her 30s. Ningxu asked Chen Ermiai, to counterattack, you have to contribute your soul force. Are you sure? Chen Ermiai nodded. I'm sure. I'll contribute 50% of my soul force. Then your wish is to take revenge on Bai Yiqiao and your husband? Ningxu asked. Chen Ermiai's eyes dimmed. She bit her lips and nodded. Yes. Well, I'll take this mission, Ningxu said. Thank you, girl. Chen Ermiai bowed to Ningxu. Her figure gradually disappeared from the system space. Ningxu opened the system exchange store and exchanged for fasting pills, some medicine, and detoxification pills. Thinking of the chaotic world of cannibalism, Ningxu wanted to exchange for some weapons. He exchanged for a dagger that could cut iron like mud. When everything was ready, Ningxu said to 2333, enter the mission. Okay, 2333 replied. Ningxu's head was dizzy. She felt that her body was fusing with another body. She felt that someone was pressing on her body, pecking her neck, making a tsk sound and spitting out a disgusting breath. A pair of hands touched her body and took off her clothes. Ningxu immediately opened her eyes and saw a man lying on top of her. Ningxu's heart was filled with a disgusting feeling. She reached out and slashed the man's neck. The man's eyes rolled back and fainted on top of Ningxu. Ningxu pushed the man on top of her away and swung her hand. Her hand hurt from the palm strike. Ningxu fiercely kicked the man and quickly buttoned up her unbuttoned clothes. This man should be the husband of the original owner, Li Guzi. He was a loafer who stole chickens and dogs. He looked wretched. This was the time to change Chen Ermiai's life. Li Guzi defiled Chen Ermiai and was caught in bed. Under the pressure of all parties, even Chen Ermiai's suicide threat could not change the fate of marrying Li Guzi. Ningxu put on her shoes and took out her dagger. This Li Guzi was simply a scum. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.